Michael, this is Michael.
Yeah, we're all set. Okay, we'll get going. Michael, do you want to give us a little introduction or you?
So the introduction is basically to take a chance to go back over the additional budget requests that you previously reviewed with department heads. Most of the department heads, well, all the department heads will be here, either department heads or somebody representing the department heads. So give you an outline on the agenda of kind of departments, but obviously, depending on what you want to do, you can vary from that. So and today is give you a chance to ask all the questions. You can go back and readdress stuff that you mentioned when it was brought up the first time.
Okay, and then as we stand today's, first page in the budget, I don't know if you want to cover that or.
Well, I mean, I can, but certainly it's
Okay,
a really wild number because you haven't cut anything, you haven't.
Yeah.
Looked at any transfers or anything else, so whatever you'd like.
well, so just to summarize it, right now, as we stand before doing any work, we're looking at a 26.63% increase that needs, and then with a total amount we raised through taxation of 9.361 million. Okay, what's the commission want to do? Just work through each department?
Yeah, I'd like to start with the first one, go right up through.
Okay, first is emergency management.
In looking at the revenues, gentlemen, I don't see anything that I have to comment on with revenues.
Good afternoon.
You,
No,
John? And I have,
unless you have anything.
I don't, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't present at your last meeting. I wanted to make sure you didn't have any questions, subsequent questions.
Okay, so we'll move on to expenditures.
and I don't have any comments on the expenditures.
Yeah.
It's the what's the part-time?
That is the position, that is a full-time position that is split between the airport and the EMA.
That's right. But did you not have it before? That's part of this.
It was pre-existing.
But it didn't get filled till last year, right?
Correct. Well, no, I'm sorry, filled in January this year.
Phil, this year,
Yeah,
we approved it
there
last
was
year.
a 6 months vacancy between,
That's what I meant, yeah.
yes,
And that's why that increase is there. because of
Correct.
that vacancy.
correct.
We ready to move on from that one?
I'm fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if you can just chase away the storm, we'll be here. Okay, Department 3, the DA's office.
Gentlemen, I'm wondering if we could stop just for a moment, because I'd like to discuss the situation that's going to affect other budgets. Several years ago, many years ago or whatnot, the Hancock County Sheriff's Department and the Maine State Police got together and conducted a pilot project to see if there was a way to share complaints between the two agencies. Out of that came what is now known as the call sharing agreements, which has been adopted in every county by all troops to, it's come and gone in some, but it's been in Hancock County now for over 20 years. As we know, and it was told to us by the lieutenant here several months ago, that will come to an end December 31st. Now, that call sharing agreement was a way for the state to make a contribution to the sheriff's department to assist us. Because at the time before that, the sheriff's department was handling 85% of all the calls coming in. State police were doing mostly traffic. And as calls increased and staffing didn't, of course, that became a real burden for us and whatnot. And so what they have done is they have been contributing towards the mission of the county to answer calls. Now, about the same time, the state organized, back then it was called Bureau Intergovernmental Drug Investigations, BOD. And it changed over to the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency, but that mission was to focus solely on drug investigations and the drug problems. Now, when they first started, they didn't get all the funding they needed to have a statewide entity. And Hancock and Washington County were left without a field office. They had an office in Bangor, and they tried to help down here, but it was very ineffective, and we weren't getting any attention on the drug problems. At the time, the sheriff and several police chiefs started lobbying the municipalities, got their approval, and went to the commissioners. The commissioners agreed to commit funds to the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency to assist them in opening a field office in Hancock County. And we have been in that for several years, and that's the drug task force that we have today. Well, it's unfortunate, but the state now has left us, has pulled out, and is no longer supporting our day-to-day operations and answering the calls. And unfortunately, I think one of the things that we need to consider is that then we need to take our support of the state agency and redirect those funds to our prime mission of answering complaints. I'm going to propose, gentlemen, that we, in 2024, that we no longer support the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency's field office with funding. That will save us $181,000. Of that $181,000, we presently have a request for 2 detectives and 3 patrol deputies between 2 agencies, the DA's office and the sheriff. And that's well over $500,000. And we can't afford that, you know. So I'm going to propose throughout the budget process today that we take and we eliminate funding to the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency, that we take the $181,000 and we support 1 detective for the district attorney and 1 patrol officer for patrol deputy for the sheriff's department. So as we review the DA's office budget, I'm going to be supporting a detective for the district attorney. But you need to understand that I would not be supporting a detective, also a detective for the sheriff. And when we get to the sheriff, I will be proposing 1 additional patrol deputy using the funds that we saved from the drug task force. And then when we get to drug task force, we will only raise what money we get reimbursed so that we can continue to provide people, but they'd have to be paid for, reimbursed by the state.
So my question with NDEA, we're not contractually obligated,
No, that was all voluntary.
and towns participate in that also, or
Well,
municipalities.
they only participate to the point of where if an organized police department could bring a deputy in as an agent, but they would be paid for by us. In other words, we were paying for 2 agents. And one of those agents could be anybody, it could be any officer in Hancock County. And they were at times. Mount Desert had an officer once and whatnot, Bucksport had an officer once and whatnot. Presently, we have,
And paid for by the county.
that's the funds that we provided paid for those 2 people, right? Presently, that we have 3 positions in the drug task force. One is the supervisor, that's 100% paid for by the state, but the other 2 positions are agents, which are paid for by the sheriff's department. But we're not contractually obligated. This was all voluntary at our discretion. And anytime over the last few years, we could have pulled out of this, and I would have never thought that I'd be sitting here today advocating to do that. But if we can't get support from the state to help us with our prime missions, then we're going to have to redirect the monies that we were giving them for drug investigation back to that effort.
So that puts Mr. Granger's, request in context. So what we're gonna do is,
Right.
we'll deal with this, but you're giving that as background for,
That would be the basis for my recommendations when we get to the sheriff's budget and when we get to the drug task force budget. So in looking at the DA's budget, the only comment I have is, it's just housekeeping more than anything. The year-to-date for the VW grant, the revenue is 5739. Does that come in periodically or?
Oh, yeah, only as they submit for reimbursement.
So, Bob, your revenue budget was 27,500 for 2023. And you're asking for the same, you're predicting the same amount in your grant for this year, correct?
we're on revenues.
Revenues, Bob.
Okay, which line is that?
Top, you're in the expenditure
You're
line.
in the expenditure right now.
Come out, sit right down with him, Colleen. My question is that, do you anticipate getting the full 27,500 this year under the grant?
We anticipate it, but I don't know if it will change. I mean, that's what we're anticipating, that's what we've received, and that's why we anticipate it. That's what we've received in the past. I don't know if there's gonna be any change.
So the 27.5 is available if you bill for it. My question is are they cutting back? I mean, is it less than 27.5 available?
Don't,
I can't answer that question. It's a separate, I think Karen Brown works on that grant request. And I don't, again, I'm coming to this new, I don't know how that operates. Because I haven't seen any numbers on it this year.
Well, does Karen predict that she can get another 27.5 in next year in 2024?
Do you know what it was in the prior year?
Well, it's-
We know what the budget was, but we don't know actually.
it was 27.5 in 22, it was 27.5 budgeted this year, and it's 27.5 requested for next year. So it doesn't appear it's changed. My only problem is that I only see 5,700 year-to-date that you've received, and I just want to be reassured that you're going to get the full 27.5 at some point. Is it just late coming in, or?
That's the question I have to ask Karen.
So if you look at your sheet there too, the trio actuals in 2022 indicate 24,791.
That was a lot closer to the 27.5.
Yeah,
And Colleen, do you know if it does come in bits and pieces? Monica?
I don't know how they submit.
I don't look at it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yes,
Well, you need to make a note to yourself. Are you going to get it all this year? And if you don't, is that going to jeopardize what you get next year? Because you're asking for the same amount. Okay? And that number, that information needs to get to Michael and Monica. So for them to,
I'll speak to Karen when we get back.
yeah, because we're gonna have to know what to put in there for BAC.
yeah, I'm hoping that the 27.5
Is the number.
is the number. My guess is it's probably, on Michael's point, just comparing 22, the budget and actual, my guess is that it's a timing issue. Good, but it's a guess. All set for revenue,
I'm fine with it.
okay, expenses,
I have a number of issues here. And in front of you on the table there, Bob, you might want to give it to Colleen, maybe. These are the most recent year-to-date figures on what you've spent so far. And so as I make my comments calling down through here, whatnot, you might want to reference the year-to-date because that has something to do with my recommendation. I'm going down to travel, first of all. That's 07-100. You've asked for 11,000. And you've asked for 11,000, and that's a significant increase over 3,500 this year. And to date, you've only spent a little over 3,000. And I'm going to suggest that we reduce that gentleman to $9,000. That still gives them a substantial increase over the 35 they had this year, but it's not
So I'm looking at line,
07-100 travel and mileage.
yeah, so that, this year the budget was 45, right?
Budget was
35.
35.
Well, what am I looking at this page right here?
No, that's the year-to-date expenses. Well,
Yeah,
7, 100.
yeah, that's there.
Yep.
But why does it say budget net? That's why I'm bringing this up. This one, budget net, so that's the budgeted amount, says 45 and this says 35. And it says that their balance is 4,000. So, and here, EMA. Sorry. Now it makes sense.
You see 35.
I do.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay. Colleen and Bob, I want to reduce that to 9,000. Any comment?
It's very difficult to comment on some of these because we're looking in the future with, right now, for instance, top one, my deputy travels to Ellsworth roughly 2 times a week. And we're short prosecutors. He has a significant caseload down here. He generally gets mileage to come down here from the Giants. So I don't know, and we're short a prosecutor in Washington County. So I don't know how often next year he'll be coming down here. Depends on our staffing levels. I have curtailed, just to try and keep the budget in line this year, I curtailed some of my travel. I have not gone to Calais anywhere near as much as I wanted to. Just because both counties are suggested that the travel budget wasn't sufficient for all of my travel.
Well, 35 probably wasn't. I'm just saying that you tripled it, for next year.
Well-
And based upon what you've spent this year, even if it was 3 times as much, it's only $9,000.
Well, we're slightly over halfway through the year. I think top line to stop submitting mileage requests because he were in a tight spot with the mileage budget.
And again, you've got 3 times as much in your 24 budget.
But your point is that it's not being submitted so that you're, this amount of, I mean, to date, you've spent $3,095, right? Is that, am I reading this right?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I think what, Mr. Clark is saying, that if we basically triple that, would that cut, I think that's where you're getting the $9,000.
Yeah, roughly, yeah. And gentlemen, we should be right now on this sheet right here, we should be 69%. That is the year-to-date average figure. Plus everyone, you gotta remember, is this a static,
Yeah,
whatnot, but nevertheless, 69. Now, Bob right now is at 88%. So he's even, as he said, with not billing for some of this and whatnot, he's still at 88%. So it's obvious he needs more money.
yes,
The question is how much more? And when I say, okay, let's triple, that seems to me quite generous considering you don't know what he really needs.
The only other point I could make, and I don't know where we're at in discussions with Washington County, but Washington County was going to start billing Hancock County for some of my travel that they ordinarily pay 100%.
Yeah.
They have started that, okay. And so that's going to contribute to an additional budget. I'm certainly willing to try to figure what Commissioner Clark's suggesting. We do our best to try and calculate out what the number of employees we're going to driving around.
Well, the other thing is, in that travel, you're talking about an investigator, would that be covered by this account?
I don't believe that
Yeah.
was not factored in.
Yeah, that's what I was,
His travel wouldn't be mine.
that's right.
And again, Bob, you were here, I think, when we talked about the initial, I mean, we're up 26%. We've got to find some money here.
I understand.
I know 1,000 here, 1,000 here, doesn't sound like much, but you know, this is said once a million here, a million there, and once in a while you start talking about real money, you know what I mean? So we got to try here.
So you're proposing,
I'm proposing 9,000.
Yeah.
Want to do that?
yeah, and again, I recognize that amount should be more, and probably not all of it is in there because of exactly what you stated, but I think tripling it is,
And Bob, we tell everybody too, it is what it is. So if you get into November and whatnot, you've exhausted your account, you let us know, but you gotta pay your bills, you know what I'm saying? So you can say, shame on you, I wanted 11, I needed 11, you didn't give it to me, so,
Because
you know.
we need realistic numbers
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
for budgeting.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
need it to be realistic.
So let's go to the next one, which is dues and subscriptions. Why would dues and subscriptions go up $4,000 a year?
I think we're going to have two additional prosecutors, number one. The additional statute books, additional,
But you're not gonna be,
the primary, yeah, I'm not familiar with how some of these are categorized. We just began operating off the Citrix share file system, the subscription rate for that. It used to be, we're eliminating paper reports coming in from law enforcement. It's all being generated by computer. They're downloading it right from the police agencies to a share file account. And that is a subscription-based program. And it's based on premise, I believe, on the number of personnel who are using it. And we're already anticipating 2 additional prosecutors next year.
so Colin, could you formulate a list of dues and subscriptions that you suspect you're gonna pay for? And does that list equal 6,500?
I think we went,
It's gonna go over, actually. If we are including a Citrix, Citrix alone, without reimbursement from Washington is gonna be estimated at 6,270. That's, so prior to this, some of the subscriptions for our computer programs weren't included. They were under other categories, so I'm trying to streamline our computer subscriptions into one line, along with our dues for our LexisNexis and our statutes and things of that nature.
Chuck, you involved in any way with Citrix? No.
Plus, the bar dues were paid out of a different account as well, so I'm trying to like streamline some of this into.
Well, if Citrix is a computer software program that you're paying dues to annually, well, it really should be down in your computer software somewhere in another line. I would think, but
Well, because that, when you mention that, that's where I looked, because that's taken a huge jump too.
computer software contractual, that's really where,
Well, that computer software, that's going up 12 grand. That's going from 27, or budgeted So last year was budgeted, I didn't mean to jump, but they're both related, I think. That was budgeted at 25, and this year it's gonna be budgeted at 37. And what's been spent out of there so far is 11,000.
So just,
What's happening as of October of next year, 2024, our current program that we rely on, in the DA's office, is no longer going to be approved by the FBI. We are, the Maine Prosecutors Association is moving, basically, it's not a support system, hasn't been supported for 10 years. We don't have any IT folks who can keep it running. We're moving to e-prosecutor, and I think that was the figure provided us by the state folks as to what our contribution would be. Maintaining e-prosecutor.
Okay, so that, the reason I'm bringing that up is is that, because you touched on that e-prosecutor thing last time. So computer software, you said, before you said that's where the e-prosecutor was, right, in that account?
that's where we're going to, it's going to come out, because just where it comes out of that now, the system that we use now.
That's right, so that's why the increase is now. But there's the Citrix
The Citrix was never in,
that
ever,
anyway.
a very small portion of it was at one point, through looking through some records, but it was less than $1,000, and that didn't even cover our whole startup. And that was paid early last year, I believe.
I guess,
So it was never included in prior years.
okay, but my question right now is, which account is it in?
I have it in the dues and subscriptions because it was a subscription, it's a computer subscription, it's a monthly payment that we make to Citrix.
Okay, so that's why the increase is there.
And again, we're gonna, at some point next year, we're gonna be paying for two subscriptions, one for Justware and one for e-prosecutor during the switchover. Because we can't cancel one until we have the other. And this is being mandated statewide, that we're all going to this program.
How much of the 6,500, Colleen, is Citrix? What do you expect for a year of Citrix? Can't remember.
We're expected to increase $62.70 is the per person cost. If it doesn't increase, if
So
the
say,
amount doesn't increase, that's what we're expecting to pay next year. Washington will be reimbursing us
Half of them.
some, so they, not half,
Washington County,
eight users. Washington
Based
County.
on number of users.
okay, Washington County, not Washington DC.
No, Washington County, I'm
Okay.
sorry, my fault, my apologies.
Okay.
Yes.
Bob and Colleen, listen, this is a good example of in future years. If you gave us like this line and you told us what you're paying for and how much, and so that we could see that, you know what I mean? The sheriff's department does that with their computer. They have a whole page of what they spend their computer software money on, and we can see every dollar being spent. So in next year's budget and whatnot, remember that if you come to these, like your software and your, and you can see where it would help us because it's an objective number for specific things, give that to us as reference material ahead of time so we can have that to look at. So you're gonna spend more than 6,500 in that line,
On the,
dues and subscriptions?
Yeah.
Should we move that Citrix into software? We should. So tell us again, how much down in your computer software, 30-320, You're asking for 37,000 now in that account. Right?
I believe that was the number we were given from the state.
Yes. Absolutely.
For one reason, for one item, for one purpose?
I believe that was for the e-prosecutor.
No, it includes, should include our MEDAX, bill that we get, we have split with Washington County. We have, our state, it's our, DA DA computer programs or computer, assistance that they help us with. And then, we have an open Fox. I don't know anything about that other than I know that that was an amount that was in a previous year, and that's 792. And then the e-justice figure was added into that.
And those three purposes added up to 37,000.
Our medians was 21,950 per year. But that was what I had originally, that and the open box, and then the additional was
16,000,
It's
so it was
16,
13
yeah.
employees times 300.
Yeah.
1,300.
13, yeah.
Have you reviewed these with them, Michael?
That specific thing we went through, yes.
So is 37 a good number, Michael?
I mean, based on if what they are saying they need all those for, then it's a pretty firm number.
Okay.
Okay, so, but the problem is that if we want to move your Citrix into software support, which is the way it should be, we're going to have to increase that.
Right, that's what I was asking her.
And how much is Citrix? 62, you say? What, pardon?
6270.
6270, yeah.
$6,300?
Okay, so that's the whole amount,
Is that
That's
for-
the whole, and then for the 8 user, they'll reimburse us for 8 users, and right now it's at $28 a user, but that's this year's.
How much
cost.
do you need in subscriptions if you take Citrix out of that? Dues and subscriptions.
I would argue that that amount should be $2,500 based on what last year's is. And, you know, just not knowing your system at all, and knowing that you've spent $3,100. I would argue that that's probably somewhere around $3,200. Should be.
But dues and subscriptions is not a static account. So in other words, if you spend all your dues and subscription funds for the year, you don't pay them monthly, do you?
We do, most of them are, because we also have other little computer programs that we have been, that we need, QuickBooks, for instance.
Oh.
That was done on an office supply previously, in the previous year. So it's a subscription that we're gonna have every year. Our Adobe product that we use for our.
And you pay a monthly fee for those. So you're going to continue to
Well-
accrue.
Excuse me, one is a yearly, it just depends on the product,
Yep.
but the one is a yearly and one's a monthly.
So you've spent $3,100 so far year to date as of this last one. How much more are you going to spend this year for dues and subscriptions?
Well,
You got October, November, you got 3 months.
We're gonna have to do the Citrix.
no, remember Citrix is in the software.
Well,
They're
but
taking-
this, we're
This
still,
year, they're taking it out of dues this year.
that's where we're taking it out this year.
But I don't want to know Citrix. I want to know what else besides Citrix, Colleen. Which Adobe, are you paying monthly on Adobe or
We
on,
pay monthly on Adobe.
and how much is that monthly?
um,
You know, I hate to say this, but I'm sort of looking at that 6,500 and that 37,000 together. You know, because I can't figure out what goes where, so I'm looking at them together. They're gonna be under.
Well, yeah, I think we know that. I'm just trying to figure out how much to peel out of the 6,500 introduce a subscription, and then take the software out of that and put it into the computer software maintenance.
Yeah, but my point is that I still don't think they're gonna have enough money. Because the numbers there
You mean this year? Or
this year, next year,
And we'll give them more. That's what I'm saying. How much,
Yeah.
but we're gonna give it to them in computer support, not in dues subscriptions. All right, listen,
I think Tony's gonna make a list for you.
Yeah, I have the list, I just don't have the amounts. I have what I attached. to
okay, so
our initial-
we're gonna reduce your dues and subscriptions right now to 4,000. And we're going to increase your computer software 30-320 to what, Paul?
well, what would make sense is to put to increase that 2,500 just to make the math work. You know, to not make this budget more, but
They've got a $6,200 Citrix.
exactly,
And we've got to add to the 37, so that's at least 43,000 for next year.
yeah.
Anything else going in, but Citrix, if we're gonna, in the software account, 320.
Get the meat ads, open box. And then Citrix. Meat dance was 22 for this year, open box was 800-ish. And then the e-prosecutor was, is it 16.9?
What?
16.9 was the e-prosecutors.
So what's that all add up to? Those four right there is 10,000, you got how much more?
$49,000.
49?
47.
7, yeah.
So this is, so you weren't asking for nearly enough money.
But Citrix will be this portion of the Citrix will be reimbursed by Wash.
Well, we know,
It's to
so
be-
we're gonna add only our share in here, so how much can we back out of that? Citrix was how much, 62?
62.
You really need to,
Showing revenue, no way,
yeah, you really should show the full expense.
And then the revenue
but we
coming
need
in.
to show a revenue. Well, but for right now, we can show the full amount and you can reimburse that line when we get there, instead of showing a revenue.
Okay,
Let's do that this year. And next year, you're gonna have to show that those 50-50 splits that they're gonna pay you for, you gotta show that as revenue next year.
Okay.
So we're going to,
If we're the ones paying for it,
well, if we pay for it and they reimburse us,
yeah, but if it's the other way, then. Or I guess it matters which way it goes,
but then
Right.
you just show the one half as your expense,
yeah,
right?
Okay.
So 49 minus 3,000, we're gonna call that 46,000. 46,000. I really wish, Michael, you'd sit down with him again. Go through these numbers specifically and just see how, I don't like the way we're muddling through this. All right, let's move on then to the training and certificates. You haven't spent anything this year out of that line.
I just spent $1,500 out of that line for the MPA conference.
Okay, is that going to be it for the year?
As far as I know, I'm not sure, things still come in that I'm not really totally aware of, but as far as I know, that should be it for the year.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to suggest that we make that 2,500 for next year. She's going to spend 1,800 this year, and then might do a little more next year.
some of that amount include, training for the new investigator,
That's
Yeah.
part of what we threw in there.
yeah, the
Oh,
07.
did you include that?
The 07-600 is in the blue, yeah.
yeah, that's
Well-
why it's, yeah.
the 07600?
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about that for a minute. This investigate, now we got our auditor back, gentlemen. Are you going to tentatively agree to put the investigator in the DA's office line and send it to the Budget Advisory Committee?
Yeah.
We jumped over, it. Okay?
Yes.
You're okay with it? All right, so it's in there. But let's talk about this individual. This individual is a standalone position within the district attorney's office. He has no supervisor, he has no backup, he can't even expect his boss, the DA, a very talented, learned lawyer, to coach him in how to do proper investigations. This guy, when it comes to the DA's office, is gonna have to be highly skilled, highly trained, and highly certified. There's no other way, because he can't, there's no such thing as on-the-job training when he gets there. So the amount of training this individual is going to need is going to be minimal. This guy is going to have to hit the road running because he has nobody to train him. He has nobody, this is not like a rookie that you can hire, so to have 1 year, as a uniformed officer. This guy's gonna have to be a very talented individual. And we'll talk about this again when we talk about the job description for this, if this comes around, because that's gonna factor into his pay. But my point, gentlemen, is that I'm not predicting any money for training for this individual that's gonna be substantial. I really don't think,
I don't know.
we don't need that, but he is going to be doing criminal investigations and internal affairs investigations. And if this person doesn't come there highly qualified to do those, you've got the wrong person.
I wouldn't want somebody who doesn't have probably at least 25 years under the belt.
And 25, and of the right kind of years too.
Correct.
So I'm just saying, as we get down through this, remember that this is going to be a very qualified individual. And we're not talking about a new deputy. We're not talking about a deputy that's been promoted to detective that you're going to try to groom over the next 2 or 3 years. This guy is top notch when he takes the job.
So let's say you're gonna expend 1,500 to 1,800 already. So that 43, let's call it 18, just to make the math work. That leaves $2,500 available for training. That's not a lot of training.
And I'm
Do you think that,
But there's, I think, recertification on the range is what the requirement. So it'd be minimal expenses.
minimal expense on that.
okay, so I don't know that. So you think it can be,
I think that we can make this $5,000. We can make this
3,000?
$3,000, and it's a learning curve. I mean, if Bob gets this individual this time next year, whatnot, he'll have some data to support, what he wants to do with this guy. But I was in Bob's shoes and I was hiring a guy, whatnot. I can't imagine what I'd want to send him to prepare him for the job he's going to do as far as training. So
So you're saying make that 3,000?
3,000, right?
And does that seem,
Is that okay, Bob?
I think that's fine.
okay?
Some of the trainings that we might send them to, a lot of them are put on by, for instance, like the U.S. Attorney's Office, domestic violence, prosecution.
Stuff where there's no fee.
There's no fee.
So we're moving on to your office expense, and I see year to date, it's just a little over 7,000, Colleen. And which is 59%, which is below and that's a static amount and so on. So I'm going to propose that we maintain the 12,000 you have this year for next year. Gentlemen, okay?
And that might be very well doable because we're cutting down on, for instance, copy paper, because we're shifting to the share file system. You don't have to reproduce all that paper. You don't have to mail as much, so.
Well, that seems to work, okay.
Let's move down to computer equipment. Do you know specifically what you're going to buy next year?
I haven't, I know that there was a list for this year, but I've got to compile all that information. We were accounting for the position, the drug,
You did the investigator,
The drug prosecutor and.
and then the investigators.
you didn't get your drug prosecutor, right?
No, we're going to get a drug prosecutor starting sometime after the end of October.
Okay, so you'll have a new investigator.
Yeah.
Now, is this hardware? Is this all hardware that you're getting?
Yes.
Is this through the program that you guys normally been buying computers through the DA, like you get some kind of discount? Like through the state or something? I mean,
We get them through the state. I don't know price wise because I have not
just
purchased any at this point. But
Must
I know
be-
there's one coming up in October for this year. That's why that's still kind of,
Well,
doesn't look like it's been touched.
I'd like to propose that we reduce that to 2,500 and we tell Colleen and Bob, as you get hardware needs, you know, the big numbers, come to us and we'll talk about paying for that from ARPA. You know, from ARPA,
Yeah, if it's something that
can be, right, Michael? We can buy their equipment,
You mean just?
PCs and stuff.
So, I mean, for the ARPA requirements, there's two different things. I mean, I can go through time, right now might be the point of doing it, but you have that revenue loss up to 10 million that the county claim, and then you have the other 4 criteria that are part of it. So if it's a normal expense, it would be countered, and that would be what would be eligible. So essentially, it's anything that, basically are permitted to use that amount to fund governmental services, and governmental services is basically indicated to be services that generally include any service traditionally provided by a government. And it goes on to say construction of schools, hospitals, rural building, maintenance, other infrastructure, health services, general government administration, staff, administrative facilities, environmental remediation, provision of police, fire, and other public safety services, including purchase of fire trucks and police vehicles. So that 10 million allows that, and then you have the other ones dealing with broadband, water, sewer.
So that could be-
housing.
So we could buy PCs out of that, right?
yes,
I can identify, I think, 4 PCs were made right off, and made for one for the prosecutor, investigator, and then I think there's 2 staff individuals that are on tap for getting. new-
Okay, so remember, ARPA funds are not tied to the budget. So if it's something you need this year and whatnot, but I'm gonna suggest we reduce it to 2,500 for some of the incidentals that they might need. And the larger ones, they can come to us and we'll talk about ARPA funds. Okay, gentlemen?
yeah, that. And that's something that should be done sooner than later, in other words, in the next year.
They can do, yeah. It's available now, so I mean, it just,
Yeah.
And the maintenance and repairs, I think, need to do the same thing.
Well-
Especially vehicle.
well, let's start with equipment. Repair of equipment, Michael, is okay under ARPA?
Maintenance and repair, what's that, in other words, we're talking about that 20-200 account.
Right.
Yeah, again, these were some numbers that were added in for the investigative position.
More for the new investigators, so. But
But if we-
they have listed use for Spillman expenses, cost of forensic equipment, maintenance, and needed repairs.
But
And again, it
are you
just goes back-
buying, excuse me, Michael, are you buying equipment out of this line, equipment line for the new investigator? Or is this
No.
repairing existing equipment?
That's repairing existing equipment. And then there was a Spillman is in there, but I'm not entirely sure what that encompasses.
Well, that's another one that should have gone down in computer support, right?
So, but why are we, why are they paying for Spillman at all?
Every agency.
We all
Participants,
pay an annual fee for Spillman.
But each department does?
they pay for whatever.
Well, each department at Spillman pays whatever their access to it is. They pay a service fee, licensing service fee.
Okay, I thought Spillman was all in one department, it's not.
No, it gets, well, sheriff's department gets billed and they hand us
Portion.
our portion.
Okay,
That's probably the 750.
Well,
Yeah.
this is another line that if you had it broken down and told us what the, what the purposes were for that, we could understand that better, because I think you're gonna find that if we're paying for Spillman, it should come out of your computer software support. Down below. Contractual services,
yeah, not in equipment.
it's not an equipment
Yeah, I think
repair.
that's historically where it's come from, so that's. We just carried it forward.
Yes,
Do we want to move that this year or just leave it?
You can leave that there for now, but when the time comes, we can spend it correctly.
Make a note to yourself next year, whatnot, you're gonna move all your computer support into your computer support line. Now, if you're repairing your equipment, that would be okay under this equipment maintenance line, but. So,
But even with that, all that said, the budget is 750. They've spent. No, they spent nothing. Unexpended balance is
but
750.
what is the big increase?
Yeah, why the extra
in
4,000?
anticipation for the additional
And what
people
do you,
coming in.
yeah,
I-
what
Just,
are you buying for them?
So, I mean, what things were mentioned were like ammunition and, I mean, the, of course, we
that
talked before about all these. I mean, you gotta remember, this portion is rough because basically at the last minute, it was said, add this position. So we had to guesstimate based on what the sheriff told us, one normal deputy or detective would cost and plug numbers in. I mean, there are costs, as you keep going down the next lines, like with a vehicle, you can cut up 50,000 right there if the sheriff can commit to you to giving that new person, the DA's office, one of the other vehicles. So there's,
Or ARPA.
but we just threw in what it would equip and then make it up to you guys right now to have the
That's all
conversation.
we need to know is what do you want to buy with this? Because if you're buying your investigator a firearm, for example, then tell us that and we'll take that from ARPA. If you're gonna buy him,
So
a laptop.
realistically, any of those things, you probably, for this new person, if you're agreeable to that, you could probably lump into one hour.
Right, and that's what we want to do. So,
I'm just looking at the, I was here a week ago on the investigator. There was a $60,000 figure on the training equipment line. The investigator.
we
We broke it all down.
Divided up because they had asked for kind of a closer break-in.
Oh, so that's where you're getting this. That's why those amounts are.
That's why they, yeah.
Okay, now this
Yeah.
makes sense. So that's why you following, Bill?
well, the 60,000 was a lump sum for everything he needed for every
Yeah,
reason.
so if you add.
And you broke it out into the right
Yeah,
lines.
yeah, just as a.
Okay, so how much, Monica, of that 4750 can we reduce if we purchase from ARPA their equipment?
You can
needs?
reduce it by 4,000.
Yes,
Okay, so, well, are we down to back to 750?
Right.
Okay, I love it, I love
I
it.
believe that we probably have a commitment out there somewhere for 750 for Spillman for this year, and we haven't received billing.
so this is my guess, is that if we take 50,000 plus 2,500 plus 3,000 plus 4,000 is 59,500, 60,000.
Yeah.
That's where you got your 60,000.
Right.
That should be an ARPA amount.
Yep.
Or if we're not wanting to do that, then we've got to, talk about a vehicle from the sheriff's office or
Right.
something like that, but to
Let's
me,
not do that. Let's,
I agree.
so 20,005, let's zero that right out.
Yes,
That is zero. And
radios is zero,
radios is zero.
and vehicle,
And next year,
oh no, insurance can't be,
Insurance.
No.
insurance can't be, that
Well,
insurance gotta stay
Let's
there.
wait a minute. What you gonna say, John?
well, the only thing I was gonna say is next year, for the next budget, we should have
Reserve.
10 grand or whatever in there, so we can build up the replacement.
That's right, because you'll get 5 years out of this vehicle anyway, so if we can reserve $8,000. In the insurance for vehicles in risk pool, we don't pay them an amount every time we add a vehicle. At some point, they take a list and do another assessment and whatnot. So I'm not even sure if we're gonna be paying anything additional for this vehicle in 24 until,
We'll have to claim it as part of our, in theory, renewal, if we have the vehicle before 24.
because we want it covered.
Or 24. But
Right,
if
but-
you purchase it
but-
after 24, we're already in the current budget year, then it's what I understand as well, it's unlikely that would change.
That would change. Yeah. I'm saying that I don't think there was going to be truly an assessment for insurance for the vehicle in,
So, before I think the prudent thing to do is to make that vehicle expense $8,000.
where, which line?
2005, and the reason, because I think that we need to be thinking, about a CIP for that.
So that you want it down in the reserve,
Yes,
That'd be
yes,
reserves
not up in the
down
vehicle.
below.
Okay, you want it down in the reserve.
yes.
Okay, when we get to that, we'll try to remember that.
Not yet.
Can we safely avoid the 3,000 next year, Michael, Colleen, Monica?
That's her.
He's done this, go ahead.
The word we have received, and you're gonna see that throughout, is that we're looking at a 20% increase from the risk pool. As high as a 20% increase, so
Probably we should leave this.
we're making sure that at least we have something in there in case
Okay,
something, but if you wanna reduce that, if you wanna make it 1,000,
no,
Then
yes,
where it's,
we're gonna take all 3,000, even though you might not know it, Bob. We're gonna use you to balance a insurance account.
25-100. So you're gonna cut that, Bill?
No,
No, just gonna leave it.
I'm gonna leave it.
Okay,
I'm gonna leave that.
Just mention it, or just mention it for the DAs, doesn't it?
no, that's the line above it,
Liability.
the liability. This is
Oh, I
just
thought
for
you
the
said
vehicle.
100, all right, I'm sorry, I was looking at this.
Oh, yeah, I have the same account line.
Okay,
Uh,
So what we've done is wiped out the vehicles, wiped out the radios, brought the equipment down to 750, left 3,000. That's what we've done so far.
yeah, those lines, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I had some more notes, but I'm looking at this one. You're gonna see an increase in statutes, Bob,
Well,
next year?
if we've got one or two more individuals working, then we have to have statute books.
That's gonna increase,
Those are expensive, but I don't know specific figures.
they have increased, there was a note increases, like a 5% increase, but I can't attest to that, I just went off some old notes.
okay, 63 is only a $300 increase over that.
Yeah,
They'd have a $100 increase in the copy and maintenance. And a $400 in advertising, so. I guess, I don't see
Yeah.
screwing around with that, you.
no. But I think we need a reserve account for a vehicle.
8,000,
Yeah,
so vehicle reserve, we don't have a line for that yet.
Yeah.
because otherwise what's gonna happen is we're, in 5 years, we're not gonna,
We're just gonna have to raise 40,000 one year. of
Yeah.
course,
We'll start,
yeah.
Well. Okay, Bob.
We beat you up, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, folks. I don't think we made Michael's head explode too bad, have we?
I know how this sounds after we beat the DA up. I don't see anything that we can do in the commissioner's budgets, do you, gentlemen?
Bye. The travel and mileage. That's your travel and mileage, right?
That's more of all, I mean, that would apply to all the commissioners' office, so that could be HR, that could be mine.
Okay, that's what, that's the, that's,
Well, now treasurer, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
So it could be basically all of those.
Is that what we pay for conference, if we go to a conference, that come out of that line?
No, there should be a training.
Training, comes out of training?
Marianne is here, I can't see them,
Yeah, she was a win.
but she is expecting a little bit more training, which will also include a little more travel in 24, so.
okay, I honestly don't. I agree with Bill, there's not a lot. You see anything in there, John?
Oh, I had it also. Part-time imaging is coming out.
Oh, that's right.
What was that, John?
Right, possibly the part-time imaging coming out of ARPA.
That's a reserve account. Are we buying that this year?
So what had been discussed was going ahead and planning on opera just to do the whole project. And then start again, so not raise any this year, but use opera over the next year or so, whatever it was, the 5th year. Using that and then starting saving again after that.
See, we only buy once every 5
5
years.
years.
We reserve.
Yeah, they reserve a
But-
portion of that.
But last year, weren't we worried about actually doing the project within the ARPA
Well,
timeframe?
there was concern, but we knew that, we knew last year that you could cut out last year and still probably be okay if you continued forward at the 6,500 rate. So right now, obviously, if you cut the 6,500 out of this year, a normal budget year, then you probably would, on the 5th year, I think, and I can't remember if we're at the 3rd year or 4th year, to be honest with you. I have to double check, but if we weren't using any ARPA funds to do that project, then you wouldn't have enough for that 5th year.
But if this is the 3rd year, we can't buy the 25, but if we commit the money in 24, can we spend the money in
Well,
25?
that was my understanding. I think you were gonna try to get it done anyway, and you can do it in that 4th or 5th year time period anyway, so.
Yeah, so what my thought was to not fund that, but make sure that we do the project within the time frame of ARPA. Because if we don't, then we're in trouble.
Make up one that last year.
Yeah,
So we can eliminate that 65 this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. Treasurers. Refresh my memory of that pilot, where is it, what is that,
Payment in lieu of taxes.
where, which one is that?
Let's have to- I don't know.
Who pays it?
I-
Oh,
I
that-
want to say it's the Nature
Yeah, Nature
Conservancy.
Conservancy.
Okay.
but don't hold me to that.
Now, interest income this year, you're actually, oh, but a lot of that's ARPA. It's all ARPA.
We're gaining interest on the funds that are in the bank, that's right.
So we
But we
can't, as we spend that, that's gonna go down.
It will, yeah.
I thought you put in all the cryptocurrency.
I did not.
Oh, well. You're fired, Mark.
Make sure you get that in the paper.
Oh, we're going in the lead right now. That's fine.
Okay, so I didn't see anything in revenues.
And the rates will be revisited again in February with the bank.
But you don't see us being able to, I was kind of hoping to sneak that amount up, but as we spend down money,
Trying to be realistic.
yeah.
Well, the last time we had your software bill, took care of it through.
Which one, John? Line?
30
-320. -320.
Yes.
So you're buying software there?
That's the new budgeting software that is in progress right now.
No, that's not the maintenance fee on it, that's the, that's the purchase.
Yes,
That would be the annual subscription.
Do you think we can get that out of APRA,
We
John?
did it last time.
That's what we did last year.
Can we scratch that in altogether?
we can try.
Yep.
We have any of those software.
Yeah, 'cause it's a.
Something else in that 21? We need to leave in there?
Well, just judging from, prior and looking at the 5-year average, probably we should leave the 5-year average.
Yeah,
At
just
least the 5, yeah.
leave 5,000 in it?
Yeah,
Oh, 5 or 5,500 is what the 5-year average is.
Yeah, this is not a static amount. This is
Okay,
not.
so 5,000.
5,000, Monica?
yeah.
Is that regular OT?
Regular, mostly regular and a little bit of OT.
Okay.
It's where Mary should be paid from rather than the finance coordinator position.
Okay.
That was Patrice and the commissioners?
Yes,
Jesus. Okay. let's see what else.
So we're out of that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, maintenance. I say we go up on the quarterlies.
Me too, executive.
yes, me too.
How do we do that?
Send them a bill.
Have a conversation.
I've had preliminary discussions with Jeremy Gray about that. And their position is, well, we're moving out of there, so we don't.
But
They have a lot
the
of-
issue is, we don't have an agreement right now to support even what they're paying right now. And even what they're paying right now, I
Yes.
understand what Monica said, isn't necessarily what the prior contract necessarily should be. I
Right,
mean,
the
it's not
final
to create
installment.
issues, but just to use an example, when the auditor comes in, he's gonna ask for what's the justification for, where's this coming from? And what basis is that based on? And we can go back and provide it at least from whatever, 4 or 5 years ago, but it doesn't necessarily cover today. So there ought to be, even if it's stagnant, there ought to be some type of agreement in place with the courts that basically spells out what the lease is gonna be. Even though we know they're leaving and all that.
It doesn't matter.
Agreed.
To me, if we don't have an agreement, then you can leave today.
I think
I'm sorry,
agreement is we just reached the final benchmark of that agreement.
But we need,
But we never observed the increase. We
and,
never
and
demanded
we,
the
and we
increase.
don't have a current signed agreement. It goes back.
At any rate, I agree, it ought to be an agreement that includes an increase based on the CPI or whatever benchmark you want to
Yeah.
include every year, which I've been suggesting for a long time.
I suspect that you, Michael, would negotiate that.
So, yeah, we have to have that conversation.
We'll go for it.
I mean, it's just, I know they're gonna leave, but they can't,
In the meantime,
so far, they don't have a place to put anything.
Right.
And even if they had a place to put something, it would be 2 or 3 years. And, you know, this isn't charity. They certainly aren't. It doesn't go the other way.
Yeah,
They're protected by statute. Jim.
they are,
They're
Superior
protected by
Court
statute.
space is protected.
The
We're,
statute,
we're required by law to provide them that space,
For nothing?
yes. That portion.
well, what
But
happened
we've
was,
got that
yeah.
other, the district court side conference rooms, we do charge them, but, and the last MOU we had was incremental increase over 5 years. That I don't think they even observed the last increase
Well,
based on the what we're reporting, or I don't think
I mean, can we
it
say
slipped through the cracks, I'd say.
You cannot say get out,
we can't? Why?
because there was a statute that was passed back in 1983, somewhere around there, whatnot. And Povich had to sit down with the state, negotiate what portion of this courthouse that belonged to the courts. They negotiated that, signed it, and they now own that space as far as who can use it.
Yeah, but there's an agreement that they're gonna pay,
Well, that
Yeah.
but they're
25,
not paying.
apparently that
Yes.
agreement, 25 cents won't get you a cup of coffee, so,
Right.
you know. They still own the space. I don't say own, but they still have the right to occupy.
Exclusive right to
Exclusive right.
all Superior.
If they pay.
Superior Court.
No,
No, it has nothing to do with it.
district court and district court offices, conference rooms and other operations, yes, they're supposed to. They have, but the figure is.
I mean, I just feel like we're,
20-something thousand
Oh, I
square
don't
feet.
think you want to kick that.
I just like they
Yeah.
keep taking and taking and taking, and,
Yeah, oh yeah,
you know,
bunch of men.
well, and that's why this is at 26%, because, you know, look at the jail, sorry, Tim. You know, look what they
Yeah.
do there. I mean, there's nothing we can do about that.
Judging for the parking spaces in the
Well-
parking garage, they've certainly taken,
There's nothing to do about the
That-
portion that's covered by statute. But if we are providing with additional space that's not mandated by statute, then you can have a conversation.
In your opinion, should I shut up or should or should we make it?
We were gonna come back to you anyway and say we need to do something about making sure we have some type of agreement in place. You know, and now the ins and outs of exactly what that represents and stuff, well, we can talk with them about that. But there should be something in play, there needs to be, we will be called by the auditor at some point. Why do you not have an agreement that supports the money? Why are you taking this money?
A private business wouldn't do this.
And I think it was 12 cents or 11.95 is where we're at.
A square foot?
Yeah,
my
it should be
goodness.
closer to 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're likely not going to get, you know, what going right gonna be, or if the commission decided later on to lease it out to somebody else, I would assume that would change over time.
I can tell you, it's not too late though to get that agreement in place because that's gonna be, the rate they're going, they're gonna be 5 years before they get into court.
Yeah, 5 at least.
So, I mean, we should get that in place now, have that in place, and negotiate, try to get a little more money out of it
Well,
if we can.
Well, and here's why I'm harping on this. That's $51,000 here. Or 51,950. Can we plug in a realistic, I mean, is it realistic that we could get something in place in
In
3 months?
2024?
I mean, to me, you can't get anything for that, and they're getting,
Well, our justification last time was not only rising fuel, energy costs, fuel, electricity, but the county's wages have been rising up. So the cleaning staff is budget has increased by $40,000 alone in the last 3 years. So
Well, here's the problem, if you increase the revenue line in hopes that you're gonna get more out of it,
Right.
don't.
we don't know
You're gonna
realistically.
you're in trouble. But if you don't increase and you do, that's found money.
yes, but
So
aren't they gonna, aren't they smart enough to say, well, you budgeted this, that, I don't know how they operate. Certainly not like I do.
I have a feeling they're not looking at our budget numbers.
Okay. So you're saying don't touch that, but
I'd say we should contact, sure.
Yeah. like we did do that.
yeah,
Just leave the budget as is.
okay.
Looking down through your expenses, Dennis, I actually think that you should. Couple reasons. I think you should round up your office account to $1,000. Your year to date
Is 858.
is 858 now. And I called it 1,000. And your cleaning, I think that should go up to 12,000. Gentlemen,
Because he's already,
it's already over.
and he's below his 5-year average.
Yeah, at 6883. And,
I have more updated numbers.
oh, okay.
In the stack.
You're up to 7,400 now, Dennis.
Yeah,
It's over 72%.
Just have
And I don't
to-
see anything else on that unless you guys do.
You have to find Department 6, it's in the stack.
So is that 1,000 and then 12,000 to make those changes?
But maintenance and repairs, you haven't spent anything this year. And
well, I've been purposely keeping that, all of those lines as low as I can while we do projects supported by ARPA. With the idea that if I have a healthy black figure at the end, maybe we'll have a healthy contribution to our reserve account. Help to offset expenses at next year or whenever.
well, I'm gonna make a pitch for an amount to be put into your reserve account for your maintenance, repairs and whatnot. Anyways, well, I was gonna suggest cutting that from 15 to 1,000, but gentlemen,
Which line, Bill?
it would be the 20-200.
Well, the only reason, I mean, is, I was looking at the 5-year actual average, is 16. That's why I think the 15 was a bad number.
How did you keep it at 0 this year so far, James?
Well, because I haven't bought any tools. I actually, this month, I just bought a hammer drill, just, on the
Okay,
warrant.
so
but-
leave that at 15. Okay.
Yeah, I've been trying to be as frugal as possible.
Building repairs, how have you kept that?
Again, by doing in-house everything we can. And actually putting off a few things. I've got projects at the DA at the annex that need to be done, which will
So
be
you
done.
need to leave that at 22.
Well, I hate to reduce it for when, the waters dry up, so to speak.
Well, yeah, plus his 5-year average is 23.
Okay, what year are you going to buy a vehicle?
I hope this fall. Looking right now is for that.
Fall of 23?
Yes. And I know that if it were, that's something that we had previously approved taking out of my reserve account, along with the trade-in, and for a one-time purchase, and then supplement each budget with the reserve amount to plan for replacement in the future.
Well,
When this was taken, when this decision was made, COVID hit and vehicles were all over the place. And we decided to go with what we had until the market stabilized. So now our truck's in the shop and unlikely to be inspected, so
wouldn't this be a good
it's
time?
the time.
this would be a good time to buy a brand new truck with an ARPA and start reserving some money.
And do you want to do that in form of a bid, up for bid or?
We'll talk
local?
about that at a regular meeting, but
Okay.
I think we should make this $500. I don't know where you get these odd numbers, Dennis.
Well, no, wait a second, I still think we need to fund that reserve account to
Keep it rolling.
keep it going. I mean, it's minimal, but I think we need to take advantage of
Wait,
it.
I'm looking at the wrong account. Right, the vehicle reserve account's 2,000, right?
Yeah, I think that needs to be there.
Oh, I agree, it should be something.
Yeah,
I tell you though, if he gets a brand new truck, the thing's gonna rust out for whatever wears out.
Yeah, mileage wise, I mean,
See,
I got this truck of Bishop with 140,000 on it, and right now it has like 154.
I'm saying, you can.
We just go to the store and back and up to the Blue Fair and all EMA's generator around.
I still think that we ought to leave that reserve there.
At 2,000, can we cut it? Well, okay.
Yeah, at 2,000 and, realistically, 2,000, that would be 10 years getting a,
And
Would be
even
15
close,
years.
right?
yeah. So that's why I think it needs to stay there.
Okay. Dennis, what G account is it that has that, the construction money in it?
001,
What do you call that account? Is it what, the
the
building,
building,
maintenance reserve account? G
yeah,
account?
building reserve,
And how much is in that now, do you know?
900,
900,000?
Wait, which is
6 to 9.
You don't see it in your thing. It's a G account.
Capital.
It's a G account that, historically, what happened was is they thought they were going to put a picket roof on this place. They started salting away hundreds of thousands of dollars. They had a couple million in there at one time.
We did, peaked at 1.9.
And then they came to the census and says, you know, put a picket roof on this building. So they started spending the money for other things. There's still 900,000 in there, but the point I was gonna make is that when and if this courts ever leave, we're
That's
gonna,
what we're gonna need.
right, we're gonna need a
To
lot of
renovate.
money to renovate this into the space that we want to use it for. And I'm just wanting to start salting money away now, and I'd like to put 50,000 in the reserve account for start building that money out.
I hope to think the windfall here might be pretty close to that, so that'd be great.
Do what?
A windfall of my budget this year is gonna be many thousands. I've been very frugal.
Well, this,
Oh, you're saying through a transfer.
well,
Yeah,
you're
I
talking
mean,
about, you're talking about surplus left over at the end of the
Right.
year, but I'm talking about actually putting 50,000 into your reserve account next year to be
However it happens.
transferred into the G account.
Well,
So if you do that, that's just gonna add to your expense right now.
yeah, that's,
Yeah, the bottom line.
You know, it's gonna add to the budget, but, you got a suggestion how to get 50,000 more into that, Michael?
You mean,
it's surplus.
you're
Well, this-
basically
that's-
continuing, I mean, that becomes the issue. Right now, you've been using ARPA to lower some of the requests. But that still doesn't deal with if you want to raise additional money to then put it over in the pot over here. So, given we have a large number here right now, to be honest with you, I don't have a great idea how you get from point A to point B. Because right now you're trying to plug holes in the regular budget, let alone.
So this isn't the time to be talking 50 grand in the reserve.
I don't
Not unless you're looking to put the budget up more or cut more. I mean, it's either come up with more revenues or cut.
I think we do that through transfers.
I just didn't want to tell you, 4 years from now, the court says, okay, we're out of here, goodbye, and then we say, okay, we want to renovate this in X space for X department, and we need $750,000, and we drain that court out here. You know what I mean? But we'll have to remember that maybe in a better year, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
Just so we're clear, on that reserve account right now, the vehicle, obviously, we're keeping that what was in there, and we're not adding any other.
the only thing we've done in maintenance made us office 1,000, and cleaning 12,000. Right?
So we actually increased his budget.
Yeah. Okay. We're ready to go off to Department 7?
All set, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I put this on department seven.
I didn't see any of his revenues down there.
Well, one of the things that I wonder is, you know, his contracts are up, but is there an escalator built in? I mean, because your expenses are going up, just,
Well, with the way that the current contracts are written is they may increase based on commissioner's recommendation. What we have historically done is 3% every year. The contracts that we have, these are with the town, most of these are with the town fire departments, who their call volume varies, but they're only a very small portion of what our dispatch staff does all the time. If that makes sense. I mean, we're not sending fire departments every 20 minutes to something, our law enforcement call volume, our 911 call volume is much higher. For what's going on.
so in other words, like your increase of 11% here, you can't attribute all of that to contract, or a portion of that to contracts, because it's growing faster elsewhere.
And we do this, in the past, we've had periods of time where our revenue has been higher just based on things that, like the Ellsworth contract, for example, that sometimes ends up being a little different based on the formulas. But what we did last year is we actually made the increase to match what we were actually receiving from the towns by a blanket 3% across the board, if that makes sense. So this matches pretty much what we have done with the revenue that we received, 3%.
Well, and the reason I'm asking that question is because I saw that 3%, but I see it, on the expense side, 11%. And I was wondering if there was a way to even them up a little bit, but what you're telling me is not really, because you can't attribute that 11%.
Not really, because also these towns, many of them are on the fiscal budget, they've already budgeted for half of next year as well. And if we increase that again, and then increase it again in January, the following year, that's going to put them ahead. But also, many of these towns, I'll use my department, one, we pay 50 or $5,000 and almost $6,000 for dispatch fees for 100 calls a year. So the work that the dispatchers are doing based on the revenue that's coming in isn't necessarily, it's more you're getting paid to provide the service versus your service base.
I get it. I just was
And
trying to.
I think we would have a big revolt. We said, hey, now you not only pay taxes, now you got to pay more.
Yeah.
taxes.
And he can't charge for 911 services, so.
Yes,
That's our.
I was just trying to figure out the disparity, that's all.
So in this expenditure, gentlemen, my first inquiry was down in your part-time budget, Bob. This year, to date, you've only spent less than $3,000 for your part-time budget.
Yeah, I think we can probably get that back a little bit. We have currently 2 part-timers, we're the only ones really working. He's been supplementing some of our vacancies, but he's not working a regular scheduling like that.
So,
I'm
how much-
comfortable with.
Can we cut that to 7,500?
Sure.
7,500 is one for part-time. And your overtime, Bob, is below year to date.
And that's honestly primarily because of the lack of staff. I don't have full staff collecting overtime. Because we have 11 positions authorized. I have 9 personnel in-house and 1 is in training, so he's not earning overtime. So I really have 3 positions, well, 2 positions for sure they're not collecting the built-in overtime that they were working if that position was filled.
So,
And the other portion was the addition of, requested additional staff member for next year, there's overtime implications of that as well.
So all hours over 40, even if it's in the regular schedule, comes out of overtime?
So contractually, anything over 40 is overtime, and anything outside of the regular schedule. So on a short week, at a 36-hour week, 37 is overtime. That's
That's
basically.
because all hours over the regular schedule, but what about
Right.
the hours when they have some weeks that's over 40 regular?
Correct, they have a 48-hour week, which 8 hour, up to 40 is regular pay after 8.
8 comes out of the overtime account?
Yeah.
And that's the problem, because that's not overtime. That's premium money for regular hours. That's part of their regular schedule. And that should be coming out of their regular account. Overtime should be hours over and above their scheduled hours. And so that 8 hours, just because it's paid at time and a half, is not overtime. It's just premium pay because of fair labor standards.
So.
I really would like to see that change so that overtime really reflects those extra hours that you had to pay for over and above regular scheduled.
So the payroll system actually codes that as overtime, the outside, and so after those shifts, after 40 hours, that actually is automatically coded in the payroll system. I mean, that may be something we can do with the new payroll system, get it, or we can change that around, but at this point, that's where it comes from. The payroll.
Well, because it's really misleading, because if
It's not truly overtime.
it's not, right, it's really part of your regular.
so
But
Can we reduce that though, something of 180 back to like 165?
So here's why, the number that I ran, because right now, to date, according to Monica, you've spent 100,000 there, okay, you still have,
That's 3.5 months.
Yeah,
plus- right.
so my guess is you're gonna spend 125.
Oh, at least, I mean, I still have people that have a lot of vacation time to burn still, that we're gonna be, that's all overtime.
Oh, okay,
I gotta
so-
bring in
So it's front loaded.
this front.
Okay, so what do you think you're gonna spend this year, knowing that you spent 100 so far?
We spent 96 so far.
99.
I'm
Overtime?
96.
Oh, I'm sorry, here I am in that
120, 130 this year.
column, yeah.
We say about,
I'm guessing 120, 130 this year based on, because again, that payroll comes out of that.
Okay, so let's call it 130. Could we go back to 150?
I'm saying 165.
Okay,
Well, I mean,
165.
Again, if we add that additional staff member to help with workload down there, that's going to be additional.
Yeah.
So let's split the difference between his ask and his this year, that's 165.
Is that,
See what happens? I mean, it's really hard, it's hard to really judge that because,
yeah,
and I also remind you that you're also getting ready to enter in contract negotiation, which this could be, these numbers could be completely out the window.
and not only that, his 5-year average is at 165. So he does have,
Not to make it, I just remind you, you have another contract negotiation coming up this year.
5-year average is not 165.
5-year actual average is 165, 156. Or am I looking at the wrong place?
I'm sorry,
No,
no,
it's
that's the prior 5-year average, no, Paul. So the current 5-year average is 123.
But that's based
No, that's the budgeted average.
No.
And the actual average is 123.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Is that based on?
What is that column?
Is that based on what we spent so far this year?
Why would we care what the 5-year average was prior to the 5-year actuals?
So you say
Because I
10
just
years
made it
ago?
look like last year's.
So that's like 10 years ago?
Well, it's year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ago.
Hey,
I don't even know why that's,
Yeah.
I'll get rid of that column.
good, thank you.
Okay, so back to like your 165.
Okay, there's 165. Is comp time buyout, does that occur all year long, or is that at the end of the year?
No, that's as a earner or as a sell it. So they can only accrue 100 hours, keep 100 hours on the books. So anytime that they get up to holiday that comes up, that's gonna put them over, we pay them out $12 a ton. The majority of them actually do buy it.
Okay, so for almost 9 months, you had $11,000. So that's gonna be something less than 20,000 for this year.
Well, no.
Well, we
because
still
he
got a
said
bunch of
it's-
holidays, and I've got a bunch of people that are actually matched, that are carrying 100 hours right now, so we've got, what, 5, 6 more holidays, or, is that right?
Again, he says that's a timing issue.
You needed 22?
Well, I think 22 is high, but, well, not that high, knowing that his actual 5-year average in the right column this time is 20,000.
Right.
So that's not that,
Okay, so we're gonna leave it at 22.
yeah.
I'm going down to travel and mileage. Bob,
So we have a lot of the travel and mileage in the past has been a lot of these conferences, a lot of trips to Augusta for meetings, things like that. I haven't been doing them this year for the main reason because I'm here to help the dispatch staff during the day because they're so busy. So I have not gone to a lot of these meetings. We get our staffing back to where it needs to be, plan on resuming those meetings. During COVID, a lot of those were Zoom, so we didn't, so that averages down a little bit because they were doing it remotely. Many of these now are back in person. Our training for the dispatchers during COVID was remote. Now they're back in-house at the Criminal Justice Academy.
That's,
So we're going to be seeing with, the addition of potentially 3 new staff members with filling the existing positions and new positions. That's going to be more travel and training for them to go to that. That makes sense.
all right. Then your office expenses, it's only $500 so far this year.
Correct. No, we've been pretty frugal and not spending a lot of money on stuff.
Why wouldn't you continue that?
Well, we surely try.
He's had a few chairs paid for from ARPA.
Yeah, well, and that was one of the issues. We were able to buy some of that stuff. Obviously, we didn't spend it. I'm not opposed to reducing that.
Well, I'm looking at these and I'm making $500 cuts and this is worth the time to talk about it. Although, down to 2,200, your equipment, that's the repair of equipment, correct? It's not to purchase, is it?
Correct, that is, yes, that is those incidentals where if Browns has to come in, or we send Browns up to one of the towers to fix something, or we have an issue, that's.
There's no hardware involved. You're not buying anything there,
No,
you're repairing.
No,
what
it's
you-
all just, we have to fix something.
And what are you saving, what are you reserving? You got a big project coming up or something you're.
Well, there's a couple of issues. The copier's not a huge issue, but we're also looking at in the event that we get the new EMA EOC, we're going to need places a backup dispatch center as part of our contingency, which we don't really have now. Our plan is Ellsworth. The way that the plan is written is we go across the street to Ellsworth PD. Reality is they don't have facility for us over there. Nor do they have the radio equipment that we need, so we would be
Won't
looking
be
at.
across the street either.
Won't be across the street either, it'll be wherever it is, so we're, I'm not looking to build a whole dispatch center, but to have adequate, a couple places for computers and some type of radio system.
Okay, so other than that though, if we buy you a photocopier out of ARPA, can we reduce this to 5,000?
Absolutely.
Let's reduce that to 5 and buy him a photocopier out of ARPA.
so you're reducing equipment to 5,000.
The
Reserve.
Yeah.
reserve equipment account, 5,000.
In other words, 70-100.
Yes.
Okay, you want to put that in zero. So, you want to- That's one of the purchases is a copier, if you want to bring it to zero on.
Well, bring it to 0.
Well, that's better than 5,000. We're gonna reduce that to 0. the reserve account,
Okay,
take it all out of there.
There's still a balance in there.
There is balance,
Yeah.
like 60, I think we have, is it 53? Okay.
53, 63,000.
I just don't think we're gonna have that EOC with our funding still available, so that's just something we have, just like the ability to go somewhere else if we have to.
Okay,
Very
thank you. Probate,
just a moment, please. Patrice, do you want to leave or
No, that's all right.
you're okay?
I'm okay. I'll leave her tomorrow, I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay.
This was yours.
Probate clerk wins the Green Bananas this year. She did the best job, good budget. Revenues remain the same, expenditures are up meager $7,000. Yeah, I can't find a thing, and I don't want to do it.
no, there's, yeah.
I'm quite pleased.
We are very pleased. Yep, we're very pleased. At the time, we got 26% increase. I can't blame any of that on you. So really, you see anything you want to talk about?
Okay,
Sorry you had to wait so long for nothing.
no, that's okay. I appreciate the chance to review with you.
It was,
Appreciate the chance to look at it.
Yeah,
was,
sure.
Thank you.
Kevin?
it was so entertaining.
Thank you.
Okay, Julie, Julie, you won the right bananas, so. What can you tell us about revenue today that you didn't know back in?
Well,
January?
you're not gonna have to buy me any beer because my transfer tax, I'm gonna definitely make that for this year. I'm not gonna make my fees, but I'm gonna make my transfer tax.
Okay, now that was a 30-pack?
Oh, you have told me a 6-pack and I've talked
That's what I
about for
thought I was
12,
losing.
I thought it was one, but.
but whatever.
I thought I was losing.
But, okay, but I'm gonna make my transfer tax and I'll probably be, about 40, 45 over my transfer tax, but my fees, just down.
Okay, so do you want to revise any of these?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
tell us what
gonna
you,
take my, the 102, the fees number, down to 400 or maybe 375. It's very bleak. The dot count is down, which makes that fee go down. My transfer tax, like I said, it's just on the deeds.
well, if you're leaving it up to us, we're gonna make it 400,000.
Yeah, I know.
So
Is your transfer tax okay though?
For next year, what does it say, 240?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it should be fine, because I'm gonna be over.
no way to get any more out of that.
Well, no, stuff sells, big stuff sells, that's what's selling right now.
That's what I mean. There's no way to get,
A little bit more out of that, I wouldn't push it, I'd call it gravy if I got it. Only because my fees, if the dot count doesn't go up, that's still gonna stay in.
What are you putting the fees at?
400.
these at 400,000. So everything else is the same?
So the transfer tax, you are meeting this year at the 275.
Yeah, because you guys are like a month behind, so
Yeah,
and I
no.
actually, and we had the winter transfer that was very huge for the county, so.
I mean, I was just wondering if the transfer tax you're making this year, why you couldn't squeak a little more next year.
Yeah, why can't we make that 260?
There you go. Okay, no, I'm good with that, though I don't want him to think 270 though, or,
Okay, so it's gonna go from 240 to 260?
Yep.
Michael, anything else on?
We got 55 to make up.
Your surcharge is gonna go down.
what's the
Surcharge,
Yes, yes it is.
they were just looking for 55.
Well,
Well,
I can't give, I didn't put anything in my part-time line, so I can't give them all the surcharge. The,
So, but on surcharge, your 5 years, 30, 5-year budget, we couldn't make that 25?
no. No, because I collect surcharge on documents. And if my doc count is down, my surcharge is definitely, seriously, the total surcharge is down this year.
Yeah, the
So-
two are connected.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay, because not every document has surcharge. So,
So you're not making any large equipment purchases next year, right?
no,
No, okay.
no. Yes, got me a copier and we should be on the new software, and so that takes that, 3,500 line down. So,
I don't see anything in the expenditures.
you know, we,
Well, I mean, the small amount, like travel and.
Well,
That's-
yeah, but when I look at her year-to-date averages, she should be at 69. I'm looking at 69, 72, 71, 70, 93. You know what I mean? So I mean, she's
Yeah.
over on what
Yeah.
her account is. I think you're good.
Yeah,
I think you're good, Jules.
all right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, just kind of looking at the schedule, you know, we've got the war coming up with this year and stuff, but IT is kind of, I think, the only one left in there that's represented. You want to
yes,
try to
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah.
get it out of the way before you get into the.
yes.
there's nothing in IT that I spend. Anything changed, Chuck, since you submitted?
I just got something from that.
Actually, I have a couple things I feel
Is it increasing or decreasing?
decrease.
Oh, we would certainly want to hear from you then.
Okay. My account 30-325. One of the projects in there is $2,000 for Gmail conversion. I'm doing that myself, so we take out 2,000 of that.
We
Which
make
one
it
is that?
Which line?
30-325.
325. We can make that 12.5.
Correct. I'm almost done that project, so. Yeah, the other one I have a
Just a
question on.
minute, just a second, Chuck. We gotta make sure we-
Which line are we?
We're down on contractual services, 30-325.
It's just
Oh, I see.
1,400 right now?
No, we're gonna reduce that to 12,500.
No, it's at 14,500.
And we're gonna reduce it to 12,500. That's right. What? No, you're in Deeds.
You got my
It's
disease.
like, I don't understand because
And the second one actually.
Second, Chuck, I'm sorry. I'm excited to hear this too, but, you know, make sure everybody's where you are.
Okay.
Just a minute, I didn't make sure. John, you got that 12.5 now?
Yeah.
30-325 down to 12.5.
But you're, right now, you've only spent 2,400 of that.
That is correct.
So you have a lot left to go as well.
Not necessarily. I have two big projects with Sierra coming up. They're about $8,000 or $9,000.
So,
That might be done this fall, so I'll use up a good part of that.
so nine.
He's supposed to be on track. in other words.
Okay. That's what I was curious about, okay.
The only one that I have left over, if you're ready.
Yep.
3320,
Yeah,
10,000 of that is Tyler Technologies, which has to do with our cyber. And you approved the purchase of that software this past year with the ARPA funds.
yes.
And I'm gonna have to redo that, and that's a $10,000 renewal. And are we gonna do that with with ARPA funds again if we do, I could take $10,000 off that line.
Well, yes, and in fact, what we should do is see if we can do that for a
About 5 years.
5-year contract,
Right.
or,
So,
you know, something like that.
so if we cover that with ARPA, you can reduce that by 10 grand.
It's 24 now,
500.
Yes,
3320, it's down now to 24,000.
That gets it below where it was last year.
Everything else is,
In your reserve accounts, Chuck,
Yes.
35,000. Are you spending any of that in 24?
No.
And the technology, the 12.5, this is all going to be reserved to your G accounts?
Correct.
yeah, this was part of the server.
Server,
things
for
that-
being, yeah.
Yeah. We were building if I remember right, we were building a reserve account so that we didn't get sticker shock when it came time to do the next.
That is correct.
Yeah, what do we think? We think the life is for,
Except
the
it's
server.
5 years, like you said, or 4 years.
Yeah, about 5 to 6 year life expectancy at most. And I was around 100 grand, so I'm forecasting, I'm thinking around 125 by the time that comes around, if we're lucky.
Yeah, that's a number we came up with last year.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Okay, so I should come back to the next regular meeting with a 5-year amount for that software to get approved by ARPA.
It doesn't have to
Doesn't have to
be.
be the next
Regular
one.
meeting.
So regular meeting.
Regular meeting.
Will do.
So probably in October.
Yeah,
Early.
yeah,
Okay, I'll get that.
we're not in any hurry, other than it should be in.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, that was IT.
We're gonna go back to sheriff.
Yeah, so 10. Department 10. Ready? Yeah. Our blank spaces. Give it away.
You're what?
Our blank faces were.
I thought there was another department head, but
No.
that's all.
Okay, so, we're looking at revenues first.
Yes, I don't have any comments.
Sale of county assets, why is that 0?
I don't have any cash at this time, or any equipment, or anything, so.
That was the trade-in. cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we sped that out. Because we did it with ARPA funds, that's why.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, with regards to the expenditures, start with the sheriff and chief deputy. There was a pitch made last time to consider the 5% difference between grades, which have increased the chief deputy and the sheriff to the amounts that the sheriff is asking for. And if you stop and think about it, whatnot, a lower grade, long-term lower grade would exceed an upper grade short-term time often. That happens often. So if you have a detective with 3 years and a patrolman with 20, he's gonna make more than the detective, even though the detective has a higher grade. So having a higher, if you had made sure that the higher grade always got paid more, then the next higher grade would have to be 5% above an I step. And that would just be unrealistic. You know, so if you look at the sheet I just gave you, there is a patrol lieutenant who is maxed out, he is an I. And that means he's gonna make 96,886,000. That's his regular rate, 424. And if you put the chief deputy 5% above that, and the sheriff 5% above him, that's where you come up with all these, the sheriff's requests. But I'm saying that doing that is unrealistic. I mean, if the patrol lieutenant's starting pay for step C is 74,000. And so the 5% above that, I mean, is way less than what the chief deputy's pay is. And even at mid-grade, the mid-step, step G, halfway up the scale and whatnot, it's only 83,000. And so I don't, I reject the argument that this should be increased to stay 5% above the highest paid lieutenant.
So how do you get to that step I? That's a time
Sure,
thing?
that's, yeah, you, for the number of years in service at that grade and whatnot, you get paid. And this patrol lieutenant has been there so that he's now getting the step I, which is the highest step on the scale. Now, if he gets done, retires, whatever and whatnot, and a new lieutenant comes in, depending on where he came from, that could be as low as 95,000, 75,000. So I'm proposing that we make the managers pay for 24, 4%, at 95,467. And that the chief deputy is 95,070.
So what, so that represents what?
Well, that represents a 4% increase,
Okay, that's what I was.
which is the rest of the department heads are getting 3%. So I'm not sure when I computed that I remembered the others got 3. So that's up to you whether you want to give him a 3% increase or a 4% increase. I guess the first question is, do you want to honor his request for 106 and 101? If not, we got to decide what that number is going to be.
Because that's a. Okay, so last year was basically 92, right?
91, 413.
No, 91.
For the manager was 91, 7, I'm sorry, yeah, 91, 795. Yeah, see, at 3%, that would be 94,548. So you want that to be 3%, 4%, or what he asked for?
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is figure out from the 91, 796 to the 106, what is that?
What percent? It's a 14% increase,
It is, that's what I have.
14.1% increase.
Oh, if they explained it in their own summary.
Oh, yeah, right here, I'm sorry, I
They
didn't see these
calculated.
numbers, yeah. Well, no, I saw that.
Okay,
So if we went with the sheriff's numbers here, you know, the 5 and the 5, the deputy, the chief deputy would be getting a 10% raise, and the sheriff would be getting a 14%.
Right.
Which is pretty much what that lieutenant is getting.
that the sheriff, that the commissioner referred to. That went from 81 something to 95 something. And this puts me and my chief less than people that we supervise and we have responsibility over.
And is that because, that's because of
Time and grade.
time and grade?
It was-
So
if he-
that's a scale problem.
No, I mean, that's a fact of life. You can go down through that and you can find that occurs several times, because if you have a patrol deputy that stays here for 25 years, and you have a sergeant that's been there for 5 years, that patrol deputy, even though he's a grade lower, is gonna make more money. He's just higher on the scale. That lower scale catches up after a while and exceeds it. So that's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to do. And if you make sure that the sheriff and the chief deputy are always 5% above the highest paid possible person there, then, you're just driving, you're driving the salary.
Do we know what the salaries are proposed next year for the sheriffs around the state? Because the argument before was that we would keep the sheriff and the chief deputy in the 7, 8, 9 range. It wouldn't be the highest of the sheriffs, and it wouldn't be the lowest of the sheriffs. It'd be 7, 8, and 9. So if we're going to,
I explain that to me.
we had a survey, there's 16 sheriffs, and we had a survey where we had the salaries of all 16 sheriffs. And Commissioner Clark proposed that we not be the highest, I get that, and not be the lowest, I appreciate that. But that we would be somewhere in the 7, 8, 9 range, which is where the 91, 795 puts me. So I'm asking, do we have the figures of what's proposed for next year? So in fairness, we stay consistent with what Commissioner Clark had suggested in the past.
And that suggestion was to compensate for that 1 year. After that, it's gonna have to follow, the COLA and whatever else and whatnot. And,
Well,
this is not the year to be making drastic increases. This is not the year to be giving anybody 14% raises.
But it certainly isn't the year in fairness to us to put us less than other people. I've been here 32 years myself.
Not as sheriff.
No, I haven't.
So, because I don't, this step I, this represents a person that has been here for how long?
I don't know how long it takes. He's been here 35 years, but I don't know how long he's been lieutenant.
So, I mean, if you look at it, Paul, if you start out with the first line and then keep falling all the way over to the right, some of those have like 2 steps within it. So if you add up all the steps and assume you move a step a year, then you come up with how many years it would take to get there. But that doesn't mean, that means just in that position at that grade, so moving forward.
So step A is the new hire.
Yeah.
Step B is after you've been there a year. Then you go B, C, D, and whatnot, and it's every 2 years. Then you go for several years and 2 years and whatnot. So, but it doesn't mean that the person who's in there, whatnot, started at step A, because you have to factor in the policy of what their pay was, and they got promoted to lieutenant.
Okay, and that's paid hourly, that's an hourly wage.
The lieutenant's now.
An hourly wage,
Yes.
yeah. And how you,
It's 42.5 hours.
that's what,
41.2.
that's exactly what
Oh,
I,
that's right, Lieutenant,
No,
excuse me.
42.5 hours.
that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna 40.
I would ask that we do that research and see where that is. We gave those raises to the patrolmen, which they deserve, everyone on that scale, and I feel I deserve the same thing. The same treatment, and that I should be paid less than someone that is at a lower grade than me. And has less responsibility.
whatever his argument is, it's still a 14% increase.
Yeah, that's where,
Well, I'm willing to, as I said, if we find that scale, and I don't know if that's something you can get from the County Commissioners Association or where that information came from last time, but, to be in that 7, 8, 9 range in there, I'm satisfied with that.
I still remember the year that we were giving
I found
cabinet
this
a
on the web.
3% raise and they gave you 9%. I mean, these exceptional raises for the sheriff is just out of the question. I'm not going to support them.
Well, I know, we know.
I'm telling you on record, I'm not going to support anything more than the 4% increase. That's more than the others are getting. So I'm suggesting for the time being, it's 95,467 for the sheriff, it's 95,070 for the chief deputy. You guys want a different number in there?
I suggest that we do 6%, so that it's the same, similar 6% that went up for the contract. It's based on this.
And I would accept that.
It's 97,302, I believe.
You think that's 97,302?
So,
I can't work this calendar.
Child-proof is a
Oh,
condition.
no, this one is 97,302, is that what you got?
Ninety-seven, 303.
Yeah, 303, yeah.
oops,
What'd you get for chief deputy, John?
I do it, yeah.
I get 96, 8, 98.
Yeah.
96,
898.
8, 98.
And that's consistent with the contract. So that we can,
Well, that's John's rationale for
Yeah.
suggesting that.
make sense.
That's what we put it at.
Got those,
So 97,303, 96,898.
yeah,
Let's see where it at.
Administrative assistant didn't change. That's what it is. And so for the regular, I understand that had 3 additional patrol deputies in it.
That's what we put in there. Correct. And it also had a promotion of sergeant in there.
So I'm going to suggest that whatever number removes 2 deputies from that, and that be increased by 1 deputy. So that's 61,562 times 2. $61,562 times 2. So we're gonna remove Michael. Well, if my suggestion is approved, we're gonna remove 123,124 from that amount. And,
Excuse me, Commissioner, which, what are you basing that number on?
well, I have,
Are you doing it on a 12C? Because that's what we put in the budget.
I'm using the spreadsheet that Michael developed to compute each position.
So this would be the
That's the
payroll
one
that
right
we
there.
do.
Yep, okay.
I'm assuming that's what it thought.
That's,
which,
does it look like?
You don't have this information here, but nevertheless, Michael has a spreadsheet
So
for
this is
Is that
the
it?
payroll spreadsheet that lumps all the budget stuff together. So this is that Scott portion of that monstrosity that we put together.
This.
So if you're gonna, I guess if you're saying take 2 patrol deputies out, is that what you're saying?
Right, so we remove those 2 that you have budgeted 61.
So you basically.
those are the 2 new ones,
He had 3 new ones.
3 new.
and I'm taking two of them out. And yours, do I see the same number?
So I thought there was 2 patrol, a sergeant and a detective. Is there something else? I mean,
Well, the,
So, no, you've got 2 patrol in there
yeah,
and a sergeant.
the sergeant, and then up above that's the detective.
Well, we've,
Where
we've asked
are
for
you?
3
Oh,
people, Michael.
for-
We've asked for 3 people, and then it's the difference between what the cost of a promotion to detective and a cost of promotion to sergeant would be. So that's not, you know,
All right,
So
so
that's
another-
not a new position. Well,
right.
Well, no, it is a new position.
the sergeant's a new position.
Yeah, it is, but it's the difference between,
Well, the sergeant's a more expensive new position than the 2 patrol deputies.
but the amount we're looking for. If you're just gonna give us 1 deputy, we'll cut the 2 deputies, and then we just need to budget for the difference between a sergeant's pay and
Well,
a.
the sergeant is in the regular line. Yes?
Yes,
Fine. I'm using his spreadsheet, so all we have to do is back out 2 new positions. And that makes the sergeant in there.
yes.
Thank you.
Michael?
yes. But not to complicate that, you're saying the difference of a detective, but I understood you were asking for a new detective.
New detective.
But that's not in the regular one.
That's, no, it's, well, it's a portion, it's not included in the sub component, yes. So if we want to get these ones out of the way, then basically what you're saying is you would take out the
Was it
2
61 something times
patrol.
2?
Yeah, those 2 ones right there, Mike, for 20,
Yeah.
61, 5, 61.
From line 01-130, you're gonna deduct $123,124 from the $1,153,020.
So that would take us down according to this, 1,029,897.
Whatever that is, you know.
What is it again?
Mike, is that taking out all of the FICA workers' comp?
No, that's the next.
It's a whole
I'm
nother
gonna go
line.
over, so
Okay,
I
yeah.
will, I mean, I can do that now while we're doing this all, because that will impact your
What's
overall
on the
bottom line.
Exactly.
It's
So-
1029. It's 1029.
Even.
1029, what?
1029.
I can't possibly see that.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 1029, 897.
897.
Thank you, Michelle. I can't see it from over here. No, I got my glasses on. I got my readers on.
I see the screen.
And can we, a couple of us need a break. Like, just to go up the stairs. Or it's gonna be a problem. So can we take a 2-minute break?
You're running the show.
Yeah, please, and then
Really?
I won't be long, I'll be quick. I can run fast. You.
So Michael, while you're sitting there though, if they agree to remove one new detective, you gotta
Please be
take
aware
out
that it's still being recorded.
74,720.
Wait, what are you doing now?
Removing the new detective.
If you remove that, yes, that would take that, and then that would reduce that 233,332 by 74,700.
Yeah, you lost me again.
No, okay, are we?
So he's kind of skipped up.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, so
Okay.
if you go further up on the spreadsheet, like where we are right here, we're 70 detective up there.
You've got, this just moved down another
So
line to
you-
142.
But why they're not together, for whatever reason, this has always been calculated, so the detective position were.
Because it's a different line,
Yeah, so,
budget line altogether.
yeah. So that's why, so here's what we've done.
You know, that spreadsheet you're looking at,
Mhm.
it's just like the one I used to do.
Yeah,
So it's-
I like it.
Opposed-
I like that spreadsheet. Especially- We have a copy of it downstairs as a working document for us to help us. Okay, okay.
So that will figure it out anyway. Then for this, I just went in.
Zero.
Zero, so
Yep.
I didn't touch the.
Excuse me.
That's fine, that's fine.
So it's just, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So I have no other suggestions for personal services, if you want, like workers' comp.
It
So
does.
it will, yeah, I
It
will
does.
calculate that automatically
Oh, it will, because they, okay.
by taking all numbers out.
Yeah.
Because what that does, Bill, it takes that total number and then starts.
Oh, can see on the bottom,
Yeah,
just
four
four
figures down
bars,
below.
four numbers on the bottom change.
Yep, okay, yep, good.
Yeah, I am.
On 10. The other way.
I'll start an eyeball John's cup there.
That should be on the commission, sure.
What did they say? Oh, here's an update on the hurricane.
You just made changes to
That
law,
one
to
line.
sheriff's.
Just that one. But that should.
Going further east, Commissioner?
I don't know, what was the reference to Western?
Well, oh,
Yeah, look at further east, yeah.
What?
Yep,
so I'm gonna propose we remove one of the new detectives that he's asked for. Agree to that? He's asked for a new detective, and I'm removing, I'm suggesting we remove that.
okay, so what, in the beginning, you said we were adding a patrol.
We're adding a patrol, we're adding a detective, the detective is going in the DA's office, the patrol is going in the
Okay.
sheriff's budget.
Okay.
We're only approving one detective, that's going in the DA's office.
So in the regular line, all you're approving right now is one new patrol position.
Correct.
Correct.
You're not approving the promotion for the sergeant?
Yes. All we did is take out you out.
Yeah, I just want to
Took
make sure
out
I'm
two
clear on my.
positions, so
All
we're
we
keeping
took
a
out.
sergeant
So you still got your
and
sergeant.
one position. One new patrol position.
That's what I,
No, because you had two patrol positions and a sergeant. You still got your sergeant.
And one patrol.
No. Your sergeant, you was asking for two patrol and a sergeant. You lost the two patrol, you could still get your sergeant.
Yes.
You asked for three new patrol positions, patrol and a sergeant, you're getting one. And it's the patrol sergeant.
so, but my question is, do you need the, if you don't add the two patrol, do you need the, wouldn't you add a patrol instead of a sergeant?
Now, if you remember, he's got four sections, he's got three sergeants already. He needs a fourth sergeant so that he can have a sergeant for each section.
Okay, that's part of it.
And if you take and you put the airport deputy into the fourth section, you now have a sergeant with three deputies in each section. Granted, the deputy at the airport isn't going to be very valuable, the sergeant as far as answering complaints, but first of all, he should have a sergeant. He should have a direct supervisor to work for.
Okay,
And replacing him someday down the road in future budgets is something we can do when we look at his data after this, but with sergeant and three patrolmen, and you keep three slots in the county and you assign patrolmen to each slot. You now have a patrolman in each slot, and you have a sergeant who can roam amongst all three of them. Now, there were many, many days when all we had was two deputies and a trooper working. And so, so this isn't like this is a reduction necessarily in every shift. Some days when you have more, but you still have a lieutenant available from the sheriff's department. For weekdays, you have a lieutenant, a chief deputy, and two detectives available. So he still has a workforce that he can draw upon depending on what his workload is. And this is going to take some time to figure out what he needs if the state police don't step up and do anything.
Well, one of the fears that I have is making it too easy for the state police to step back.
They're already stepping back, they're going, they're out of here, they're out, you know, and I don't understand, because you have a number of troopers living in Hancock County who are not specialists.
Yeah.
So that means they're not gonna be called out for the TAC team, they're not gonna be called out for the dive team, so what are they gonna be doing? So ideally, I think the sheriff should be working out some arrangement with the supervisor each day saying, you've got two troopers running around here, can we call upon them if we need extra help? And try to enlist those people and to help with it. So he does have perhaps some backup staff if he knows he's got a couple troopers out there who are not specialists, who are just hanging out, running radar.
Oh, and what that's gonna be, that group is gonna be pulled, those people are gonna be pulled from Scott County because they have that where they're gonna have to be. You know, it's been made very clear, and it was here with the lieutenant, that his first priority is take care of Penobscot County. And we get what's left over.
How is that?
Because that all goes back to, the legislative committee or group in Penobscot County submitted legislation that they get $500,000 so that to supplement the sheriff's budget up there so that they could hire new people. And at first it was approved and then it got squashed. And it got squashed with the agreement that the priority is Penobscot County covering their commitment up there until at least December of next year. So to do that, the resources that out of Washington County basically have been pulled out. And that's what's happening here. People are being assigned up there. And when they assign someone from the Bangor area or somewhere in Penobscot County, you know, their response time is a long time. I would ask that the commissioners consider, like they did this year in the budget, give me one in January and give me another one in July. We did that this year. Now, I don't know what that cost would be, but I would ask if you would consider that. Because based on the figures that I got from state police, if they stay just the same, if the state police covered the same amount of complaints they did in Hancock County last year, it was 3,800 and change. You add that onto where we are, we'll jump from about 6,800 where we were last year to 11 or 12,000. To add that extra load on top of the crew now is really, it's not fair to ask. It's too much. So I would ask that you consider 1.5 positions last year like you did this year.
What happens if we just can't? You know, like I'm looking at,
We're gonna have to tell somebody we can't come do something, and I don't know what that's gonna be. I submitted to you numbers broke down by what the complaints were to look at, to take care of that.
because, you know, I'm looking at what the total is. You know, it's just not doable. And, you know, something's gotta give.
The overall county,
Yeah.
you know, I get it, Commissioner, I get it.
And,
But-
but I wonder what, you know,
Listen, what it takes to fill a patrol shift, what it takes, how many people it takes to fill a department adequately is a very subjective. You know, and it doesn't make any sense, because when you talk about how many officers Ellsworth PD has for 8,000 people in the ratio, and then you talk about what the sheriff has and try to match that ratio, because you'd have to have 40 people. So that number is so subjective, you know. The only way we're really gonna know is to ease our way into this. And if 2024 is a lean year for the sheriff, so be it. Come back with the data supporting more people in 25. But I mean, his whole thing is to throw millions of dollars at this problem and whatnot, and
Absolutely not. That's not fair.
you're
Commissioner.
proposing over $500,000 worth of new people in this budget alone.
Absolutely, I did.
That in itself exceeds our LD1 tax cap, and I'm saying that is unsustainable, we know it is. So we don't know how many people he needs, and quite honestly, he doesn't know. It's going to have to keep adding people until the data shows that he has an adequate number of people.
And quite honestly, you don't know how many we need either.
That's right, and I'm saying we work up, because you're never gonna work down.
And
You
that's
give him
why I'm
5
asking.
people
you
right
to consider
now,
that other
and it turns out he only needs 3, he's not gonna turn 2 back. You know,
well, I can't, yeah.
so I'm saying that we ease into this thing.
And this is adding a person.
Right, this is giving him a person, and that detective in the DA's office is going to be a benefit to the sheriff, because there's going to be things that detective will do for the DA that he's not going to ask the sheriff's detective to do. So there is a benefit to having that guy out there. It's going to take some of the workload off.
Well, we don't know that, we think that.
We know it, we do know that, because we know that the sheriff can tell you that there are assignments coming from the DA's office and whatnot that he'll handle himself then.
But we don't know what they're gonna take for complaints up there. I mean, how can we know what one department's gonna get from complaints when you tell me I don't know what I'm gonna get in my department? How can you tell me that?
So,
Anyways, I would ask that you would consider 1.5 positions like we did this year. And my long-range plan was to look at, when the COPS grants come out, to look to apply for a COPS grant to help supplement. And we have LD 630 that the Maine sheriffs are going to go back to the legislature. That's still, that was tabled this year. We're gonna go back and look, try to get some funding from the state. Whether we get that or not, who the heck knows?
wouldn't we be in a better position to get that funding if we didn't add? You know,
I have no idea. I don't know what the criteria is.
Yeah, and I don't know what, the argument last time was they didn't like the proposal of where the funding was gonna come from. We weren't looking to ask for funding that was already existing. We were looking for other sources, I guess, the best way to put it. So,
okay, so let's say we add that position, right? So that means that
And what position?
that one position you're talking about.
Right.
Okay,
That's already in there.
that's in
you
here.
just cut two.
Yeah,
He- Right,
that's in here,
and that's already in, right.
but that translates to, like vehicle and all this other stuff too.
Well, it translates into your deductions, your contributions, your FICA and that thing, that's the direct.
But he's adding a person. So we
And
need
as we
another
go down
vehicle.
through, we'll try to figure out how many,
Yeah.
if the budget got increased by these extra people that we're now hiring. And we'll do that as we go.
Okay,
Right now, we're trying to decide whether or not you're gonna give him a detective. And I'm saying no. What are you saying, John?
Yeah, just do the sergeant,
Pardon?
do the sergeant. See where
Okay.
we're at.
So,
yeah.
all right, then if that's the case, let's get down through. Michael is knowing now, he has already automatic.
I am so lost. Okay, are we on patrol now or are we on detective?
Take your patrol number, total number, $1,153,000. Take that figure and deduct from that two
Two,
new patrol deputies,
okay,
which is
1,029,
the
I
one,
mean, 1,029,029.
no,
The new number
take,
is 1029.
1029897.
that is your patrol figure now.
Mhm.
Okay,
So no
That the sergeant is in there.
sergeants in there. Okay, and now we're cutting a detective out of the detective.
so you're gonna remove $74,720 from that, which leaves what, Michael? The detective,
Just gotta get it out of here first.
74,720.
So now the 233, 332 is now 158,612.
158,0121.
158,612.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gotcha.
And that'll trickle down on the FICA and employee costs as well.
Okay, so if that's it, if we're done with personal services, move on to employee expenses.
Yeah, because the other ones
Yes.
were not representative of those numbers in any shape or form. Okay,
The dues and subscriptions, why did those go up 50%? Something new?
MSA went up, Maine Chiefs went up, the cost, us went up.
So what are those costs going to be for 24?
The only thing we could do is do a guesstimate on what the dues and fees were gonna increase to, so that was the best guess that we had.
So
We have taser dues now, those are new that have just come in, MSA dues,
Wait a minute, how much is taser dues?
taser dues this year were,
Some,
They-
seven.
yeah, I was thinking it was like, yeah, I think it's $750.
And that's never been, we've never had
And MSA dues are how much?
$750.
And Maine Chiefs?
That one, Maine Chiefs.
I don't have the choose. I don't have that.
I don't have that one.
Also, what you gotta do is you gotta add the 750 to the 2,000, so it's at least that.
No, because the year-to-date is only $1,500. So I suspect you paid all your dues this year, and you're about 1,600.
Except the taser one, because
No,
that,
I just paid.
I know it, but he's talking about adding, so if we add 750 to,
I only have $414 left in the account.
correct,
Okay.
that's the $2,000 account, but you've spent 1,600. So if we add the taser to 1,600, we're basically talking $2,200.
Are you changing 07,500 though?
I'm suggesting we change 07,500 from 3,000 down to 2,200. Gentlemen?
Yep.
Okay. Now, training and registrations and whatnot was increased because there was supposed to be 3 deputies and another detective, isn't, 3 of which isn't going to happen, and I'm suggesting we can reduce that from 25,000 to 15,000.
Yes.
Well, you went from 4 down to 1, so that should be doable. If that's the case, then we move down to public safety. Under the same rationale, we can reduce that 21,000 back down to the 12,000 that we have presently this year.
I'm sorry, can you tell me what line we're on again, please?
We're down to line, under supplies, 10-12,
Public safety.
public safety. Reduce that back to the original 12,000. Halfway through September now, and you've only spent $4,000 out of that account. Gentlemen, you okay with that?
Yep.
Well, we haven't got all of our ammo. We haven't ordered our ammo yet either.
Under uniforms, same thing, we're not getting uniforms for 3 deputies and reduce that to 25,000 back to
18.
Don't forget, I have to pay for clothing allowances of $250 per union contract. I have to also, $1,200 for the Maine Criminal Justice Academy, because we will have to send, our newest deputy to the academy, and depending on who we hire to backfill. And also have to purchase a vest.
for 1 deputy.
I have another one expiring. I have a vest expiring.
You've only spent 6,800 this year, so you can buy the deputies expiring this year. I'm suggesting that we can cut that right back to 1,500.
No,
1,500?
50, I'm sorry, 15,000.
Sorry.
Gentlemen, 15,000?
I have to ask the question that, Mike, you're changing those under the department head. Those aren't what my proposals are. For the budget committee to get an accurate from us, what we submitted to what the commissioners have submitted, that's not accurate.
No,
So you have the second line over the 2024 commissioners.
Yep.
The changes that are being made should be in that line and
Yeah,
not in the
Yes.
department head's line.
this is
correct.
just a working, this is just a working.
Okay, I'm just,
This is to account for right now.
gotcha, just saying that.
That department head column will still be there.
And you'll add the figures that you changed them to that, and it still have what we submitted.
Yeah, no, yours, the department head one will be there, but the commissioners are what the numbers we're working on right now, right?
Yeah, but he's changing them in the department heads here.
But that's just, this is, what we did for tonight is a working copy. So we'll go back and take our other one and move those numbers over to the commissioner's line item and then make these adjustments in the working copy tonight to that, and that'll be what's gonna be.
You're just trying to arrive at a number.
Exactly, exactly. But before we transferred everything over and not knowing what you were gonna tell us tonight,
Yeah.
we just did a working copy for a
Yeah,
town, then
okay.
we have to make that adjustment.
I just needed to have that clarified. Thank you.
Moving along, maintenance and repairs. He's increased the vehicles from 36 to 50. I understand that these Tahoes were supposed to be the.
Yeah, it's not fair to blame it on the Tahoe commission. It's the cost of parts and labor.
Well, $2,000 for a brake job on a Tahoe, though, is just,
Well, we're not paying $25 an hour for labor anymore.
well, nevertheless, I'm hoping with 8 new vehicles this year and whatnot, that we're not going to have to spend nearly as much money on repairs and whatnot.
Which line you want?
Vehicle maintenance, 20-005.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm suggesting we reduce that to 40,000.
That will make me close.
No, you're already spent that this year.
Because you're still fixing junk.
No,
You've been getting 8 new cars this year that you shouldn't be spending any. They should be on warranty, a lot of that work anyway. So
Brakes on warranty.
brakes.
nevertheless, you're not gonna,
And we also get.
you're not gonna put brakes on, you're not gonna put brakes on a vehicle with 25,000 miles on it.
We purchase our tires out of there.
You know, and you purchase tires every year.
Not at the price that they are now.
Gentlemen, I'm suggesting 40. What do you want to do?
I'm not sure 40 works because this year, they're already,
But they're working on
How many
junk
of the
this
new
year.
cars
They're still
do they
fixing
put?
junk. They
We're
get-
not fixing junk, Commissioner. We're repairing the vehicles that we have in the fleet. We sold 4 or 5, whatever the junk were, and we still have 2 or 3 that are spares. We're not repairing junk. We're repairing frontline cruisers. And cost of vehicle repairs.
I mean, for me, I understand where you want to go, but if we've already spent 40, I'm not sure how we can.
How many of the new vehicles have actually?
The last one came, the dog canine car came. this-
Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday.
No, Monday, I'm sorry,
Monday or
Monday,
Tuesday.
Monday.
That's the last one, yes.
The tune of $66,000. What do you want for a number on vehicles? You want to leave the 50? You want to go 40? You want to go something in between? What do you want to do?
Well, I like 40 because it shaves 10 off there, but I'm not sure it's realistic, that's all.
What do you want? What do you think?
Split the general order, what are your thoughts?
Steve 50, you know?
42? Okay,
Where are we now?
So,
Yeah, I know, but I'm,
42?
we're at 36.
42.
no, you're at 39.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at what we budgeted last year.
Okay, for 42 on that, to go down to equipment, based upon the 3 less people we're hiring, I reduced that from 32 down to 12,000. It's still a $3,000 increase last year from previous year.
That won't allow us to get the watch guard camera that we need. What else we gonna?
We need to have spikes.
If you have equipment, major equipment, you need to come to us and talk to us about buying that with ARPA.
Okay, you wanna pay for that with ARPA?
Yes, we want to pay for major equipment. Later, everything the rest of this year into next year, all your major purchases with ARPA.
So, just so I'm clear, do you wanna do that? We need to replace the tasers. We need to have, spikes.
You come and tell us what you need. It's the same deal as your budget, so.
Well, I get it, but what do you want me to include in there? Because we're gonna get down to some of those lines, or some of those items are already in there, built into that. So if we discuss it now, we know where we can go.
Are you replacing all your tasers?
No, what did we have, 4?
At how much?
That should be, you should have that. I submitted that document to you
I still got too much propaganda.
when I turned all that stuff in. It was 11,000 and change that. Yep, with the tasers and
Before,
with the tasers, the holsters, and the cartridges that, we have cartridges, we have to we qualify once a year with them. So that uses cartridges and then the other cartridges.
what do we replace the holsters for?
Because these are new tasers for people that don't have them.
We've got one guy coming. You don't need
I
four.
still have some people that don't have them.
Sheriff, where's that?
This was X. So,
Yeah,
Yep, excellent.
$11,803.54.
Sounds like a major purchase, so that should be coming out.
And this is in which line?
Equipment line that we're talking about. 20-200.
Are there any minor incidentals, Michelle, that you're buying out of this thing? Or can we zero this right out and buy everything you want out of ARPA?
Oh, no, we still have other,
Okay, so how much incidentals, how many minor purchases? We're gonna take the major stuff out of ARPA, so.
I mean, we still have, could be cables for the radios, for the cruisers. There is definitely, I can't afford to zero that budget out, that
Oh,
line
yeah,
out.
just tell me,
But I just have daily, I mean, I have 10,000, 9,000.
Well, we know we can take 12,000.
we know the 5-year average was 6,000.
This year we have used
$6,000. $6,074 so far this year.
we have 29.
All right, Shell, so we're gonna leave $7,000 in that account, okay?
Less than
And
this
everything,
year.
nevertheless, you're gonna buy your major stuff out of ARPA,
I get it, but that doesn't, I don't know why that justifies cutting what we have this year.
because you bought major stuff out of this year's money.
No.
No.
No, we didn't.
So, to me, what makes sense,
Just leave it where it is then. If you're gonna cut the other items that we have, we're gonna go with ARPA, then leave it at the 9,000.
that's what I was,
Thank you.
Okay, 9,000. All right, gentlemen, I'm up on insurances, back to services, next page, let's get something else.
Where are you, Commissioner?
I'm on the second page, I just don't know where they want to go. I don't want to rush ahead if they got an issue they want to.
no,
Then I'm going down to criminal investigations. And simply cutting $1,000 out of that 6,500. Sorry, testing. Wait a minute,
No,
I'm sorry. I was under the impression that this testing was for the new recruits. This is.
no, this is a drug testing for court cases.
Never mind.
yeah,
Nothing, never mind. And if you have nothing else, I'm going down to vehicles and I want to zero that out.
That was your plan, Commissioner. That's where that 100,000 was put in there.
I know, and truth of the matter is that we can't sustain the plan. If you remember, this is what we talked about last year, then we never agreed to this, but this was kind of a how to fund cruises from now till 28 with ARPA funds. And so for 23 and 24, we were going to pay for the full cost of the cruises from ARPA. Then at 25, we were going to start reserving.
money, yeah.
Right. Michael, tell me again, how long can we spend ARPA funds?
They can spend them up to 26, but you have to obligate them at the end of 2024.
24. Now, when you say obligate, there's no way to obligate buying cruises for 25 and 26.
Well, I mean, you're basically gonna set aside, just like we do on our spreadsheet, and say the intent is.
So we
the
can't.
remaining money will be budgeted. That correct?
Okay, so what's the last day we can buy?
So just, I mean, basically at the year end of 26, all those funds are supposed to be based on.
Spent.
Spent.
Okay, so
And
this,
we have a plan in place by the end of next year.
By the end of
How the
24.
remaining money is that we have available. We'll
okay,
discuss
so we're not gonna be able to spend, we're not gonna be able to buy cars out of ARPA in 27.
Or 20.
There was
Or
no, there was no,
going
there was no
forward
cars coming from ARPA in 28 anyways.
Oh, that's right, buy out cars.
Yeah, so basically, in 24, we might want to push this up to 50 and 24, 125 and 150 and 26, as far as reserving money.
Right now, I will need mileage wise to replace one supervisor's vehicle. It's got 92,000 on it now. Mine is fine, one of the lieutenants is fine, but one of the other lieutenants has got 92. I've got 77.
Whatever you need, whatever we agree we're going to give you is going to come from ARPA.
Okay,
So
so
it's not a discussion for the budget.
if we zero this out, I can come to you and say, I got 115,000.
You're going to make the same pitch for us as you'd make for the budget.
So yes,
Yes,
thank you.
I'm just
But
trying,
that doesn't, I mean, we're not committing to that.
No, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
don't go ordering.
Wait, can you repeat that again, Commissioner? You said the 2023
Yeah,
and
sure.
2024?
Look at that. What would, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Got it.
Is that the document we had last year?
Yes.
Is that the same one we had last
Yes.
year?
I don't think I changed it.
Oh, I just-
Because I-
Okay, so you saying no budget for 23, 24, and start budgeting in 25?
No, we're gonna have to move that up. 24 is gonna have to be 50,000.
So,
So you want 50,000 in our reserve and not zero?
Because we're looking, this is 21st budget.
Right.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to put 50,000. If we want to do something like this, we're gonna have to put 50,000 in 24.
so that goes from 100 down to 50?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't agreed that we're gonna do this, but you guys like this and you agree with it? You want to try to follow this?
Well, I think we need to follow it, because we need to stick something in that reserve. Otherwise, we're gonna be in trouble come
Yes.
27. Right?
So it's 50,000, 2024, does that change it in 2025 up to 100,000? Or
Right,
we keep it at 50?
Right, 24 is gonna be 50,000.
Okay.
25 is gonna be 100,000. And 26 is gonna be 150,000. That's the last year that we can buy.
But we have to dedicate that by the end of next year, Mike? Is that what
We'll
you
take
said?
care of all that.
Yeah, but I'm just,
That's what.
In 27, we're gonna have to fund 100% of our cruises.
and hopefully with this plan, we'll have a fair chunk of that in there.
We hopefully, with this plan, we'll have over 375,000 in there.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how many cars we need to buy and add more to the budget for that year. So we want to reduce the reserve vehicles to 50,000, right, John?
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Yeah.
You done with him?
Thank you. Wrote all over it?
Yeah, I may send you the updated version. I may send you the
You want me to
updated.
just make a copy of this?
Well,
Well, I gotta retype this.
Oh,
And I've written
So
up
I
all
may
of
send this out, distribute that with the new figures.
Well, you done with him? Is that better?
I think so, aren't we? That was it for Ken. Well,
Yes.
The only thing I had in revenues for 12 was, why did the employee health contribution go down for this year? next year? I sat down, anybody know? We have the
Swans
same-
Island,
Swans Island, oh,
It's not in there.
Swans Island's not a thing, it was combined with the other two.
very good, thank you. And I have nothing in the expenditure. Unless you do.
No, that's fully re-
Just remember, you've got that. Just keep in the back of your minds that 7,300 account for vehicles is 0.
We did not bill that amount that we traditionally transfer at the end of the year to contribute to purchasing 2 vehicles every 4 years. So if you want us to build some money in there, we will have to redo those. But if you want to leave it the way it is, that's fine too. That's your decision.
There would be some reserve at the end of the year, if we increase our contracts. I know that was something that was discussed last week at the commissioners meeting. Kind of left it up to the sheriff to decide on the increase in the contracts.
not following that.
So what had been suggested was essentially the contract amounts right now don't include, correct, the actual cost of vehicles. So right now, that expense, we've just been saving the money, and every 4 years or so, we buy new vehicles to plug into those contracts. But what he's saying is charging the communities in the actual contracts, correct?
So yes, we would have to bump that up, whatever it is. I'd have to figure out, how much dollar wise that would be above and beyond
We
where we
should
are.
be doing that.
And then you just would have to adjust your revenues on the other side there.
What I was looking for from the commissioners is saying, okay, we want to transfer 15,000, and we've transferred as much as, 25, Michelle, in the
In
past,
previous years.
in previous years, and as low as 20 or 21. So if you tell me that you want to be able to transfer at the end of the year, 18,000 towards the purchase of vehicles for those town contracts, then we'll have to go back and adjust the revenue and the expenses. So I think that's what we talked about that at the meeting, or I brought it up.
I think that needs to be done, don't you?
Well, how come if town contracts have money in, money out, how come we're spending more for town contracts than we're receiving?
Yeah, that should be the exact same.
The same.
I'm showing
You gotta turn the page.
480, yeah, I'm showing 483 for revenue and 516 for expenditures.
No, you gotta turn the page.
You've got 483, 755 for revenue, and you've got 483, 755 for expenses.
Yeah, it's on the second page.
On the second page of the
Page of what?
Oh, wait.
No, that's the revenues twice.
There's only one
That's the
page on the expenditure report.
That's the old.
I got
that's-
both.
that's the
I got both.
What,
There's the second page.
755, and your expenses, you seem to go 516, 210.
yes,
That's not what I
I
had.
don't see that either.
I don't know.
see it right up there?
Mine says 483,755.
That's what mine
Spreadsheets that we got.
Your expenditure report,
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is what we got from.
I chose 560.
just real quick on your expenditure report, on personal services, I got 368, 819. You?
Yes.
Then I go down under employee costs of 128, 891.
96,436 is what we've got.
So that's the old one.
Well, that's a different one.
That's the only one we submitted.
That's one that we got.
What's the, what do you show up there? 128, 891 for? Well, we have a problem, Houston.
What do you have for FICA Medicare?
Let me photocopy.
13,113. What about 169?
101.
Yeah, workers' comp, 170.
And the airport looks like where it's about 8,000. This one has 68.
5200 shell, 19763.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
so this,
Yeah.
It's retirement.
One above it, 171, 16,881.
Well, we got
8534.
What have you got? 85, 34?
534.
Here, this is the,
This one has health insurance.
There's one for, there's two copies there. One for each of you.
So we're
So
not
it's the
paying.
airport.
So when they go back,
I don't know.
Those aren't the numbers that we submitted. Some of these updated.
well, see, I think what this was, we had a conversation, because Mayhorn is leaving. Because now he's your chief deputy, correct? So, but right now, he's not getting any retirement, he's not getting any health, so we've got to adjust for that somehow,
But
so
he's-
we've got to. Because you're gonna have to fill that with something, so you got to adjust that somehow at some point, so I think that's where the issue.
So all you have to do is just increase, you're gonna have to increase your
that's what we did.
airport revenue.
On the other side.
On the other side, the airport revenue is what's gonna be
Because we'll bill
adjusted.
that to the airport.
Right,
That's where that extra expense is coming from.
So your revenue is gonna be up to 516, 210.
yep.
Sorry.
So this is, the-
You need a copy, Michelle?
no, I got one, thank you.
And how much is the difference for the airport?
Well, you might have to do it, but it's gonna be 516, 210. I can run the numbers.
Yeah, we'll just bring the copy.
Mike, are you just basing that on a single
So
subscriber?
basically, I think we plugged in,
Single.
I mean, I can tell you exactly.
These have a mid-range.
Yeah, must have done a, is that a family, is that a single with child?
Single spouse, something like that.
About Don't keep drinking all that water.
I know.
Excuse me.
It's a single.
It's a single,
Almost like-
okay.
All right, so that's just a clerical.
Yeah, we'll just
Yeah.
pass that on.
Yeah.
If we can move on to civil process.
Yes.
Still process 12,
No, 13.
13.
You know, I don't see anything in revenues, that's what it is, unfortunate. Are you up?
But we're just trying to make this industrial change right now.
Yeah, go ahead, and we're just gonna talk about civil for a minute. In expenditures, gentlemen, the only thing I see is that in order to save a few bucks, if we, you're gonna buy civil vehicle in 24,
I was gonna tell you, I was planning on that, but I got the numbers, it's got 72,000, just about where, less than, 73,331 as of this
so
afternoon,
sometime in
So we
20
don't-
sometime in 24.
maybe. But if you wanna go, if you're looking at those major purchases through Hancock,
What I'd like to do is give you a brand new pickup sometime early in 24 and give yours to maintenance.
yes,
Yes.
sell.
It didn't cost you a thing to get one. So what I'm suggesting, gentlemen, is we take 10,000 out of the vehicle reserve account, and sometime in 24, we buy civil process server, a new vehicle, and give his to the maintenance director.
How are we gonna buy it?
How you gonna buy what?
The new vehicle for civil process? ARPA?
Yes. that's what
Oh,
I mean.
okay,
Right,
okay.
right,
sorry.
we're gonna pay for your new vehicle out of it.
You know, and that's what we did with the current vehicle they had, they purchased that, we were getting ready to trade it, and they bought it out of maintenance.
Yeah, we're gonna give it to them this time.
Well, that's fine, I traded it, used one for a new one there.
Sorry,
So,
I'm cutting the 10 out of the.
well,
reserves.
I'm suggesting that to my counsel, and John says yes.
Yes.
And so
What
we're gonna-
number are you?
I'm just trying to.
13,70300.
Do we have a time frame on how desperate they are for that vehicle?
Theirs will pass inspection. I think it's off the road.
Oh, so when you say,
What, it makes no difference, the funds, you know, ARPA funds are ARPA funds now, it doesn't, so, yeah.
so if there's some big rebates on pickups right now,
Yep.
we'll look at that.
You're start looking for an extend cab, just like he's got.
Yeah,
Yeah, make maintenance a good pickup.
very good pickup.
Right. Anything else, gentlemen, on civil?
And why do we buy pickups instead of a car for that, just so that we can hand it down later?
Trade in.
Yeah,
That's
and
getting into driveways. in the
You
winter.
can, it's your all-wheel drive, you know, a
Okay, there's reason.
lot of room in that.
Yeah. And it's a good hand-me-down.
Value.
This will be,
The
this will be the
value.
second time we've done it.
Okay, so we're taking that 10,000 out?
Everything else stays the same, right?
Yes. Unless you guys got anything else? No, okay. Info and tech we've done, debt service, it is what it is, right, gentlemen?
For about 46. You just get 46.
That service is nothing.
Yeah, but they skip.
Yeah, we gotta do 46.
Well, I mean, I'm saying them in order, but we, you know, I have,
So on the agenda, I plugged that in just to get through those.
oh, okay, so, all right, I'm sorry, let's go to 46.
Yeah, 46.
So as I said at the start of the meeting today and whatnot, unfortunately, if the state's not going to assist us with our primary mission of answering complaints, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to assist them with their mission of drug investigation. By thinking, not supporting them anymore, it would give us 181,000, which would support the new deputy and the new detective. And I'm suggesting that we reduce the revenues 112 to $129,590.
Can you tell me how you come to that number?
That is Thornton's.
Okay, just him.
So you're saying,
In revenues now, this is what the state's going to reimburse us for Thornton's time and benefits.
yeah,
That's 129,590.
We have no idea where they're gonna be with that. They are, well, actually, they're in further negotiations, mediation with the state. I listened to it this morning, that they are, as the state says, millions of dollars apart for a new contract for state employees. So we don't know whether they, state police side is gonna get a $2 raise or a $22.
That doesn't,
But,
in my
well,
proposal,
we will get.
that doesn't affect us because he's 100%
Right,
reimbursed.
but I'm just saying, the number we're plugging in is an unknown.
It doesn't mean, whatever the figure we get, it's the figure we spend.
Yep.
Or vice versa, really. Whatever we spend, they'll reimburse. So, Mike, we got that number 129,950?
Excuse me,
Five.
can we, I'm looking at the spreadsheets here that we did for the payroll purposes. We have, one individual, the supervisor, who is 100% reimbursed. And then we have another deputy on loan down there. And then we have the position that we still have vacant, it's vacant down there that we have not filled. So are you saying we're only going to have one supervisor at Maine Drug?
Correct, and that's,
So,
So we'll have no agents down there? Or,
we will not be paying the equivalent of 2 agents. We're not paying the equivalent of anything anymore towards FDA, nothing.
so the open position that we haven't backfilled at this point, that's the one that's gonna go away?
They're all going away. We're not contributing any more money. We're paying nothing. We're paying nothing from that. So the 129,000 is simply what we're going to have to pay Thornton, and they're going to reimburse us for. Because when we go to the expenditure page, zero one 136 is going to be 91,187.
If it's just Thornton,
What is it? Which is,
Thornton is 94,987.
91, 187 was the first.
Um,
statement. Yeah, I know.
What is his projected 24?
So right now, total is 94, 987.
All right, 94, what?
987.
987? So that's gonna change your Medicare figures, but nevertheless, 94, 987 Medicare, retirement and health is going to equal the revenue, whatever that number is.
So are we, at this point, the vacant position you want to go and the deputy that's currently assigned in there as the other patrol deputy that's assigned in there, it's gonna have to be moved somewhere else or included, so back in Department 10.
In this one, you're gonna zero out everything except Thornton
supervisor.
and the FICA, your employee cost.
Yep.
Yeah.
So basically, we should do this backwards, figure out what Thornton is gonna cost, benefits and all.
So. When, because I'm not sure exactly how this program works. When we participate in it, there are seizures and stuff that have flows back to us.
We won't get those. After this, we won't get those, because we don't have anything in it, we don't have any investment in the program, so.
Does that pay for it?
So this will be.
No, we're transferring 15,000 this year, is what I budgeted. That's roughly 41,000 in the reserve account.
Where did the 15 get transferred into the sheriff's account?
Well, it's in the,
No, it's in the drug task
Drug
force
task force,
reserve,
yeah.
reserve line.
We're gonna talk about, we're gonna zero out that account. We're going to take $41,000, we're gonna add that to the,
Because what I'm trying to do is just, what's the real net of what your proposal is?
net savings. That's
The net savings.
181,000.
so if we're gonna transfer that entire amount over there, I would ask that we consider keeping the agent down there as well as the supervisor. Because I gotta tell you, politically, that's not gonna help us out. You know, we're talking about being overrun with drugs, and we are, and to pull our commitment completely out of there from the county side, that's, to me, is not a good thing.
Of course, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But the problem is that when the state police says we're out of here January 1st of 24, there is no alternative. You can't hope that something else is gonna fill that void. Nothing is. Nothing's out there. But if we say to the state, because you're not helping us with patrol anymore, we cannot help you anymore with task force, and we send a resource to the DSO, they can at least say, well, we're gonna have to look at our resources and see if we can redirect some and keep that task force open, and that's a possibility. And on top of that, the commissioner for the Maine Drug Enforcement is the same commissioner as the Maine State Police. If the MDEA is upset that they're losing funding in the field office down here in Hancock and Washington County, grab the colonel and go in and see the commissioner and say, hey, what's going on here? Your actions are causing us to lose money.
This decision is punishing the citizens of Hancock County. And I know that decisions have, whether it's what I'm talking about or what you're
Political
talking
statement. Listen,
about. No,
we'll-
it is, but I get those phone calls, so should I direct them to you?
Yes, absolutely. Because they're also the same people as paying taxes.
I get it.
And so the legislature, whatnot, they can raise all the money they want. They don't have an LD1 cap on them, whatnot, who could fund MDEA's task force and give us an LD1 tax cap, and we have to limit how much we can raise and whatnot. So
We can't go above LD one.
We did last year. We went 5.79.
we were under LD1.
I thought I looked at the last
We
year.
were just under, we made sure that we were just under, because we had to go back to BAC and get their permission. We were under LD1. Unlike some municipalities around here who were up 17% and never did an LT1 vote, but nevertheless, that doesn't make any difference. Nobody is going to dispute the fact we have a hell of a drug problem. But we cannot continue to support the state's programs when they're going to discontinue supporting our primary mission of answering complaints. It's as simple as that.
I'll give them your number.
I'll talk with them. I thought long and hard before I made this suggestion. I don't know what else to do because we could just simply cut it out and you don't have enough people to work with. Or we can try to do something, at least start to meet the problem.
So municipalities can have a vote to override LD one.
So they have the same process.
But the problem with that is you override it this year, the following year, you've got to go back to where you started from. You don't go from that increase. So you make that hole bigger. You're kicking the can down the road, as they always say. That's the problem with that.
If they even follow the LD one law. City of Ellsworth went up 17% and on their taxes, they're raised by taxation and never took an LD one law. So, I mean, and nobody cares.
I gotta tell you, with, you know, the drug problem we have around here, this stinks, but, I mean, this stinks the way we're being treated. At some point, we've got to push back.
Well, we haven't pushed back, and I've said this in the meetings, you know, I made you folks aware, just like everybody has, that this was coming with the state police. Now,
Yeah, but your solution is throw a lot of money at it. I'm saying that we don't have that money to throw at it.
I get it. I get it.
This is
So,
dumb.
but the police take us out of have any participation for street agent is
That's where the money is, 181,000. That supports the detective and the patrolman that we need. That's half what we need.
181,000 is taking the funding for two agents. One of them we have not filled this year, so if you eliminate
We're
one,
still raising that money. We raised that money this year and didn't spend it. We're raising that money through taxation.
correct?
We're going to save that in 24. We're not going to raise 181,000 in 24 for taxation.
I'm asking you to
I'm not,
raise half of that.
well, you have my proposal.
Well, I'll talk to the budget committee as well, so whatever.
Do you have the final numbers? Because the revenue should have changed now because
That's just what we were doing.
you really do it backwards. You know, take his one's gross pay.
Yeah.
And then the deductions for the benefits on top of that.
Yep.
That is going to be the revenue number.
Yep.
Is that what you did?
Yes,
Okay, so what are those,
But-
what,
we have to still update the employee insurance numbers for taking out the second employee, so we'll have to update that later. It's a little bit slightly.
I don't know why you're taking anything out. I think what you should do is zero out that account, zero it out. Simply add to the expenditures Thornton's gross pay and his benefits. That's it, because we're not paying any more. We're not paying any more, telephone, we're not paying any more, what are we, we're not paying any more supplies, we're not paying any more, canine supplies.
No. Canine supplies is nothing to do with Maine Truck.
I see canine supplies as a line in here.
Yep, but it has nothing to do with Maine Truck.
Nevertheless, it's coming out of there
Yes.
because I want to get this number first. When you get it. Because I'm going to propose, gentlemen, that effective January 1st, 2024, that we retire Finn and we do not have a second canine officer. Canine officer alone, under the new contract in Whatnot, will get $15,000 just for taking care of his dog. That's $30,000 we're gonna spend on two canine officers.
22,000.
Whatever
When you
you
take-
submitted, we ended up printing out, except for that one thing we had a difference for, so they should all match up. So whatever's here is what was sent back to you guys, and you guys both looked at, so it shouldn't be a different
No,
number.
he's talking
When you
about.
take Travis,
I know, but that's just for the 32,000 number that we have in there right
You take Travis Coffin's 24 hourly pay,
Frost.
No, it's.
1 day of Travis Frost,
Yeah.
an hour,
That's
that
75,
every day for
yeah.
365 days a year, that's $15,000.
Can't put in, but we
No.
put in, but you guys put in, so.
Supposedly Travis has been saying that he's thinking about retiring Finn anyways and not getting another dog. And I gotta believe after the incident he went through Sunday, that might be a welcome thing to do. But anyways, I'm suggesting that effective January 24th, reduce that program to 1 canine and that we retire Finn, because the Finn's handler is a sergeant, which means that's an hourly rate that's higher than the deputy, the other canine officer, which means that hour a day is at a higher rate. So
You know, the enforcement and the drug parts what bothers me, but you know, what we're doing is not sustainable. You know, excuse me, spending the money is not sustainable.
So the issue of retiring one of the canine dogs January 1st and whatnot needs to be decided, because we need to add, because we're zeroing out the task force budget, we need to add $16,000 to the sheriff's budget for a canine supplies to pay the handler that is still there. If you don't want to retire him and you want to continue to pay for 2 canine officers and dogs, then we need to put 32,000 into the sheriff's budget. So
Why were they both in here if they're not?
the sheriff successfully argued that they spend a lot of their time on drug investigations and so on and so.
Okay, so that's why.
So that's fine. I didn't agree with him, I still don't, but nevertheless, that's where it is. But if we zero out and we no longer contribute to the task force, then that 32,000 to support the 2 handlers has to go back into his budget, so. And that 32,000 is wages, correct, Monica?
Yes,
So that should go under the 3,000. It shouldn't go under the personal services law, should be added into that, right, Monica? Because it is wages. And I'm suggesting that we retire one of those, that retire Travis Frost and his dog January 1st, and that we put 16,000 into the sheriff's budget.
Can we do that?
Okay, do what?
We can just. When you say retire the dog, what happens?
If we don't fund that in budget, he has no choice. He's got to get rid of one of his canine officers. And I'm saying that because Travis has always, and has lately has been hinting that it may be the end of Finn's career, that it's a good time to do it in January of 24. We save the cost of that particular dog, and we save the 15,000 on the end.
Is that,
I don't agree with that at all. The dog is 7 years old. Realistically, 9 to 10 years is what they have. We've got an investment in that dog. I mean, that's basically getting us out of the drug business. And I don't agree with throwing away a resource that we already have. For $22,000 or whatever his $12,000 out of a $7-8 million budget.
1,000 here, gentlemen, 1,000 after a while.
I get it, we've cut 1,000 here, and we've cut 1,000 there.
well, we need to cut, actually. More like. We need to cut, where's that number, Michael, to get to LD one? We needed
What's that?
$500,000,
Yeah, and
right?
we didn't negotiate the contract. We didn't negotiate the contract for wages, which some of us are being punished by. And we didn't negotiate wages for the benefit. That's Fair Labor Standards Act. It's
What? What's the,
reimbursing the dog for the dog.
but if we don't have the program, we don't have to reimburse the dog.
What are your thoughts?
I don't think I
It's hard
saw
to say
that.
because I don't know how the dog's being used, you know? How if we don't have, if we pull this all out of the drug task force, what, how much is canine gonna get used?
Depending on,
That happens.
yeah, the two canines don't work the same shifts, so we have the ability to, depending on if we have a search, any of those type things, we have a dog most of the time available that's already there, so we don't have to call someone out and pay the overtime.
Well, and the dogs have different purposes, if I remember.
Well, one dog has more training in the sense that Travis's dog, Finn, is also a patrol dog, so that dog, and it's also search certified. Stanley's dog is drug certified and article search and person search, so if there's a lost child or lost person, that, but if it's for a drug sniff on a suspect's vehicle or
They both.
using it, excuse me, they both could, but Travis's dog also is, like another deputy, actually. Travis's expense is $12,121.20.
Without the 1 hour.
That is.
That is the one, that's the cost of the 1 hour.
Guess we gotta figure out what to do here.
Actually, you know what? You could. So in that original budget for the 2023 budget for the canine overtime of $9,000, that included, that was their stipends for their 4 days off in between schedules, in between shifts. With this new adjustment of the 7 days on, I mean, we could adjust that number down a little bit to compensate for some of the change in the dog. Probably about 20, you could probably get it down to $27,000 in that line.
What are we talking about, drug task force line?
The canine overtime line,
Is that in drug task force?
yes.
If I understand correctly, the canine officers get 1 hour of pay every day, 7 days a week. Travis Frost is going to make $41.25 an hour.
No,
No, it's 30, like,
According to the spreadsheet,
oh,
$41.25, that's $15,056 a year.
We're paying him extra.
We're paying him extra $15,056 a year to compensate him for taking care of the dog.
I can't read the number.
Per that, which one exactly?
For next year.
And abide by Fair Labor Standards.
3919.
39,
We're not required to pay him to take care of that dog.
We are, it's in the Fair Labor Standards.
Well, we're not at that rate. If so, we'd have been paying that 7 years ago.
And we didn't because there was an agreement between Travis and us.
You can't agree to
Well,
violate
we
fair
did.
labor standards.
We did.
39.19.
thank you.
All the more reason, gentlemen, we should reduce the number of canine officers and reduce that expense.
I just think it's wrong to throw away a usable asset that we have.
Say, how much is it saving? Maybe 2,000.
Well, it's gonna say 15,000 in just direct payroll costs. Now, I don't know how much in the sheriff's budget, somewhere in there, there's gonna be an account to support his. Where is that?
What are you looking for?
You had raised money for his vet bills and
It's
his,
in the canine, it's in your drug task force stuff, it's in your canine supplies. The 3,500.
You looking at the budget or you looking for a reserve account?
I'm looking for what would cost. The canine overtime is all the expenses?
No, canine
No.
overtime is just that 7, the 7 days a week.
Okay, canine supplies is 3,500?
Yes,
Okay, so if that is to support to support two canine officers, John, then it's going to be, you're gonna save $16,800 a year by reducing that from 2 to 1.
If you're gonna take, if you're not gonna do, agents down there, you might as well zero out that account, 14,969.90, which is in drug task force. And we've got, whoops,
no, 40,000.
yeah, isn't that what I said, $40,969.90. And then we have a reserve account from the original contribution when we purchased the dog, we got the program started, of $4,269.17.
You see that?
It's in reserves.
It's in reserves, I'm
It's in your
sorry.
reserve lines.
It's in the G account, you don't see that.
Oh.
But that 40,000 adds to the $181,000 that we saved by not contributing to the NDA. So it's really, when you take all the reserves and add that to the budget, it's $225,000 that you're going to. That's half of what you were looking for. Right there.
Where are we now? Do we know that before we?
Well, I mean, there's one addition of 8,000 that we're gonna create a line for, so it won't be in the calculation. And then still, I think we still gotta make some minor adjustments to this Department 46. Based on the other changes. But if we go back to,
Well, the sheriff, they're telling you to zero out the drug task force supply account.
They hadn't said it yet.
so, I mean, I guess that's,
Right.
6,000.
I'm suggesting that everything is zeroed out in Department 46, except
For the officer
the
and the
one
employee costs.
officer at 95, whatever you said, and those employee cost. Said that amounted to how much, Monica?
So basically, with the printing of this first page, we were at 1.55 above LD one.
well, we hadn't done the calculation, that LD1 calculation that isn't accurate yet, because one, I don't even have the number from the state, which I won't get till the end of this month at a minimum. And we don't have all the figures in, so that, the LD1 portion, you have to, you're looking at
Take
total
with a
dollars.
grain of salt, yeah.
Total dollars.
You said 1.5 million?
Yes, because, well, right now the increase, before we did anything, is 1.969. So basically, our budget is $2 million more than last year,
You're right.
okay?
The proposed budget?
Proposed budget, before we started today,
Computation.
is $2 million, 1.969 above last year.
Paul, on the computation page, it started out at 26% and it's down to 16%, the increase over last year.
Okay, so right now, before we even talk about this, that's what I'm trying to find.
The
Give or
LD one,
take, because there's still a couple
Yeah.
minor adjustments. we have to
Yeah,
do.
I'm dealing with,
Still 10%.
yeah, so, but I'm trying to. Can you read me that number? I can't.
which number,
The,
target,
no, what are we over right now? Over last year? That 19, that 1.969 is now what?
1.230.
1.230. 3. Okay. Give or take. Because of that.
Yeah, because.
So we're still 800 round, it's over that, we're 800,000 over LD1.
Again, that's,
Again.
It's roughly,
that's using last year, so.
So if we were to take a stab at that, what would we be? I mean, are we off a couple $100,000? Probably.
Well, it depends, this gets back to again,
The state
transfers
number.
and stuff like that too. I can't tell you, I don't have all the information. I mean,
Yeah.
I can tell you, oh, sure, a couple $100,000 off, but that's total BS, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. Until I get all that information from them and until I know what that growth number is from the state, there's no way for me to adequately calculate an
Okay,
LD1.
so let's put that LD1 aside. That's a tax increase of 17%
yes,
Basically.
versus 27%.
yes,
That's where we stand right now before we
yes.
have this conversation.
Well, at what point is that? What have you done?
We've reduced the,
You've adjusted everything that you made for changes tonight, except for
What we're talking about now.
really, the $8,000 that you put in back into a reserve that needs to go back into a line item, which I didn't have time to insert and do all that.
yeah,
And then this Department 46, getting that all to balance out based on whatever it is you end up with a final decision. Are you cutting one dog, are you just keeping
Yeah,
2 dogs, are we moving that to the Department 10?
I was just trying to take inventory.
So it's not, but it's basically whatever Department 46 final changes are and adding 8,000.
What we should be doing is simply taking 46. That is only Thornton's wage benefits, period. That's it. That's it. And any money that we need to raise for support of a canine program goes back in the sheriff's budget.
so that's the amount we need to know.
Right.
So
So
that-
you're,
So even, I mean, even for the purpose of this,
It stays the
if we
same.
move it from the department, it doesn't matter. The dollar amount's still
Yeah,
the same. We just need
It's
to know,
irrelevant where it is.
are we doing 2 or doing 1? Yeah.
I hate to see the asset, because I'm fiscally very conservative, but I hate drugs. And, I'm torn on this. I mean, and on the other side of that, I'm also tired of being walked all over by the state. They don't mind pulling resources away from us, but the minute we go pull resources away from their program, we're the bad guys.
we've got $800,000 more than we've been funding. You know what I mean? I'm giving you everything I can think of to get it down reasonably to do that. If you want to start adding stuff back, I don't know how the hell you're gonna pay for it.
Great.
So at this point, I think we should send to the BAC, we should send to them the results of 1 canine. We should take the 41,000 that we have in the reserve, in the G account, add that to the budget as a reserve transfer to reduce the amount raised by taxation. And I don't know what the hell else they're gonna do after that. See what the BAC says.
I know it's Band-Aid fix, but are ARPA funds available for that?
Everything we went through today.
That we took out to pay for it?
Every-
Okay, I was just
John-
asking.
In the back of Sean's mind, he's been flying up at every line, and we've done that. We spent a lot of ARPA money today, and reduced it. Also, it was still 700,000 or 800,000 over.
Say reduce it to one dog, see where we end up.
One dog.
So that way-
Okay, so what is Stanley's wage?
John Stanley.
Stanley is, well, it's the same amount. How can that be? How can he be the same hourly wage as?
I don't suspect he is.
What's next year?
Oh, wait a minute.
So we have.
I'm looking at hourly,
41.
weekly hours instead of
Oh, no,
hourly
wait,
rate.
30, 44.
30, what is it?
30, 44 for their 22 weeks, and 31, 34 for 30 weeks.
Hard to see.
If you just did it off 52 weeks on the highest wage, you got 11,444. I didn't break it out. Yeah, you could break it out.
I'll tell you, I was looking at the rate, I got
Yeah.
looking at the hours,
Yeah.
weekly hours. 30/44 then is,
For how many weeks, sir?
For 22 weeks, and then 12 at 30 weeks.
John Stanley trying to take him out.
no, we're trying to compute what an hour a day.
34.
For how many weeks?
So we need to know how many days it, how many days it's